They still have a chance of getting in, so, but congratulations, you made it. That's the good news. Bad news is you're going to be required to take the time necessary. I'll explain at the end what the commitment is, redefine it. I think we did a pretty good job. Mrs. Bruner did in the beginning, sending out the information, but we run a pretty tight ship, and we do it because we have 25 volunteers. You'll see many of them come in at 2 o'clock. We actually have a panel of the operating committee members today, so you'll get a chance to meet 8 or 10 of the operating committee members. But these are professionals, CEOs, lawyers, doctors, independent businessmen. We have over 500 years of professional business experience. They take their time. We have guest speakers that come. They're heads of marketing, they're heads of engineering, they're heads of finance from all different companies, Goodyear, Timken, so on and so forth. My point is that these people give their time and energy and effort to come, not only on Sundays, but all during the week. You'd be amazed what they do for our students. You'll experience some of that. But that's why we run a pretty tight ship. In addition, we are very proud of the program we put together. We're actually 3 years old this month, so it's our third birthday, so to speak. We had 19 apprenticeships this past summer in 2015. We should have somewhere around between 19 and 21 this summer. So we're working very hard to find employment for you. We know that the students that we send when they're finally selected, because not everyone is guaranteed, you got to work at it, you got to show us that you want it. But we know the students that we send into these jobs, when I send them into the Timken Foundation, the Timken company over by the airport, when I send them to Goodyear in Akron, when I send them to Smuckers in Orville, when I send them to Freshmark in Massillon, these are all Fortune 500 blue chip companies. When we send them there, we are pretty confident in your skills. And your skills include being on time, good communication skills, having a commitment to the program, and really wanting it. So over the course of your next couple of years, depending on what grade you're in, we'll be watching you, we'll be assessing your skill set, we'll make sure that we're training and developing you down to simply writing a formal email. We had a student who went to Freshmark last year. She was a senior. She's graduated, and we put her on the job. She was in the human resource department, and I get a note the first week. It says, "Mr. V, can you help me? I'm getting emails and I don't know how to respond to them." And so it clicked with myself and the operating committee that we quickly, I quickly within an hour told her, you know, how to write a professional email. But then after that, it became part of our instruction. So we're learning too along the way, but as soon as we find something like that, we make sure we pass it on to you. So, and I can tell you, as far as communications and emails, that's probably one of the most important things we could teach you. So when I finally retired, I spent 30 years with Kraft Foods and about 40 years in what they call consumer packaged goods. Consumer packaged goods would be companies like Nestle and Kellogg's and General Mills and Procter & Gamble. When I finally retired, I was getting between 150 and 175 emails a day. So I can tell you, we also had a panel discussion of graduates. So you know some of the names. E.J. Davinsky came, Matt Kinlow came. The Montgomery twins came. And they sat up here and said even in college, one of the most important things is emails. So You don't have the same one-on-one you have with your teachers here in early college. You're going to have to get used to that, but email is very important. So we will work on those skills. We'll teach you. I thought it would be appropriate, since it's a 3-year anniversary plus. Mr. Bruner and I had the pleasure of being invited, I think it was 2 weeks ago, right, Les? 2 weeks ago we went down to Atlanta, and there was an EdWorks conference with all of the principals in the United States. And Mr. Bruner and I had the good fortune to be invited to explain our CAMP program. They are very impressed with this program. They would like to see this program expanded to other schools. This was this is about 75% of the presentation that we put together for EdWorks. And I thought, what better way to explain to you what's been going on for the past 3 years, how we operate, make sure, since we have the supports in the room, parents, guardians, whatever it is, family, relatives, that you know what kind of hands your children are in. And again, we're pretty proud of it. So I thought this would be the best way. So how was CAMP created? It was created basically by a bunch of individuals that belong to an organization called CAST, Caring and Serving Together. It was born out of 2 families in the Glenmore area, and now it's over 250 families strong. That was started in 2011. When I joined the group in 2012, the 5 partners that they served were the Habitat for Humanity, the Refuge of Hope, feeding the homeless, Early College Academy, which Mr. Bruner was the principal of at the time, Early College High School, and the J.R. Coleman Adult Center, which my wife happens to be the volunteer coordinator. She has a passion for the elderly. I have a passion for students and young. So we got involved in this, and we're going along, and we were doing things with Mr. Bruner, like landscaping projects in front of the Early College Academy. We painted their lockers, all of their lockers, that's one summer. Some people wound up painting the floor, the walls, you know. They didn't get to the ceiling, thank goodness. But, so we were doing projects like that. And I kept going home and thinking about this whole concept of college ready and career ready. So I was thoroughly impressed with Mr. Bruner's results, which is 85% of his students graduate with 1 or 2 degrees. And I said, well, I can't improve upon that. I said, but I am a businessman, and I know the career ready side of the equation. So I started digging in, and I tried to find out what's going on in the district career ready, because that's a pretty bold statement, college ready and career ready. In the meantime, I was getting ready to retire, and I joined the Tuesday Night Golf League, and I go on the golf course, and I'm having these people from Castor introducing me to judges and lawyers and congressmen, and I mean, it just goes on, and I'm going like, wow, what a powerful group of individuals. And so I'm laying there one night, and I'm thinking about it, I go, well, the key is networking. I know that. I mean, I know, I mean, statistically, something like 75% or 80% of the jobs, either before or after college, are through networking. So I'm going, we have this wonderful networking opportunity, and things started to click in my mind, and I said, hey, wonderful students, talented, smart, all of this power in the community, how do we tap into it? That led to the formation of CAMP. CAMP stands for CAST Apprenticeship Mentorship Program. So the primary focus is on jobs, training and development, and mentoring. So when I wrote what I called a strategic plan, I basically took a blank pad, and I wrote out literally handwritten, and in about 4 or 5 pages, and I presented it to the senior members of the CAST organization. I said, this is what I would like to do. I'm going to head it up. That's how I like to go about it. This is what I need from you. And they gave me their blessing, and that was in February 3 years ago. Here's the idea and the concept. Is designed to offer students a comprehensive business training and development program. We're committed to supporting the district and the early college's commitment to college ready and career ready. One of my biggest challenges and the things that still keep me up at night is that Mr. Brunner has been able, and this wonderful program has been able to take 6 years of education and put it into 4. To me, that says I need to get them ready for their careers faster. I mean, it's not just enough to get them educated faster. 2 years younger in college, that whole career thing needs to come together faster. So that's what I feel we need to do as an operating committee. Our goal is to provide students who exhibit talent and desire to succeed. That's you all. You have exhibited that. You, from the time the papers were filed by your teachers, you were being evaluated on your talent and your desire to succeed. You came in, you interviewed, you took papers home, you answered those papers, you came in, you did interviews, and that's why I say congratulations. That's not an easy process, especially for high school students, and sometimes in your freshman and sophomore years. I mean, that's not easy. But we want to give you a significant competitive advantage. You'll see when we go through this. You'll see what I mean by giving them a significant competitive advantage. Because I don't feel it's just enough to get them a college and a 4-year degree. There's a lot of people sitting at home, with 4-year degrees that do not have jobs. And they don't have a significant competitive advantage to the millions who are graduating that year and in the years past. So that's one of our main goals. We pledge to nurture their diverse talents. They're all different. Nobody understands that better than I. By the time we go through a year or two, I will have observed them for, I don't know, I'll throw out a number, 25, 30 hours. I will have met with them 5, 6 times individually with Mrs. Brunner, filling out mini surveys on what do you want to be when you grow up, what kind of colleges you're looking at, make sure, here's some matrices for you to look at colleges, evaluate your major, make sure that you're in the right direction. Do you have a safety net? If you want to go for psychology, great. I recommend you try to get some IT experience as a backup. We know after 3 graduating classes, we have enough examples of these wonderful, talented students exactly like you, some even smarter, that are sitting in their dorm room after the first semester. They failed their first or had to withdraw from their first class ever. They've never experienced it. You've blown through high school. You've blown through your associate's degrees. You got A's, B pluses, I mean, your GPAs. I've never seen anything like it. Some of them are over 4 because of the college classes, right? There's nothing like sitting in a dorm room, you got a disappointment. You don't have a safety net, you don't have a backup, you don't know what to do. We are big proponents of helping you think through that process. You want to major in, now, if you I have a human resource director, ex-human resource director from Diebold, 25 years on my staff. Her husband is the vice president of human resources at Timken. We have 2 apprenticeships at Timken this summer in engineering. Engineering is an unbelievable career path to go into right now. It's one of the hottest, okay? A lot of jobs. If you're majoring in engineering, probably not a big need to do this whole safety net, what's my backup plan? But if you're after majors like psychology, history, we have some archaeology majors, Arabic language. I mean, it runs the whole gambit, and that's what makes you individuals. But we're certainly going to propose to you, you're going to look up that career path, you're going to find out, is it a hot job market? What's the salary range? Where can you go to school to get that? And then we're still going to press you for a backup plan. Because we know, and I have experience, and I'll give you alumni that graduated here, that are now out of school, not knowing what to do, some of them working in McDonald's and stuff, and they were in your position a year or two ago. So we want to make sure you're successful as you go through there. That, by the way, is what I just showed you was basically our mission statement. So we have a mission statement. That basically was it. But at the end of the day, these are the things we're trying to teach and administer on the perimeter. So career interest, interviewing skills, resume development. Then we look for apprenticeships. We have mentoring, networking. And Mr. Bruner and I have visited 8 colleges in Northeast Ohio. I'll talk about that in a little while. It's called the Big 8. And we have a lot of contacts all the way up to presidents of colleges that are helping us out. Mr. Bruner and I were with Jim Tressel about a month ago at Youngstown State. He wants all of our students. He wants all of them. And I can tell you right now, there's a few that are applying for the first time to Youngstown State. And with the offers that are coming back, it's showing that he wants our students. So that's the environment we wanted to create. It wasn't just enough. You couldn't believe how many schools didn't even know about the early college program. And they're not that far away. It's like Hiram and Cleveland State. Even Mount Union, I think, was surprised, right, Ken?
Yes.
In 2013, this is what we did. Same process. Students are recommended by the teachers and Mr. Bruner. We interviewed 70 plus students. We took 32. We established an 18-member operating committee. That's the people I told you. By the way, you can go on the website, echscamp.com, and you can find the bios of all of the operating committee members are on there, pictures and bios. We put in what's called a career matrix, and we'll be having you do what we call a My Plan. My Plan is sponsored by Stark State and the district. You'll go on, it's going to ask you, takes a couple of hours, it's going to ask you a lot of questions about your behavior, choices you would make, and from there it tries to guide you into what it thinks you would be talented enough to do. Gives you a list of, I think, 8 to 10 possible career paths, right, Ken?
Yes.
But in the meantime, Mrs. Bruner, do you have that career matrix page? Can we hand that out? So the career matrix page is, I'll track you all the time. You can change your mind at any time. But we basically picked probably 90% of what the students are looking for: healthcare, engineering, finance, business, legal, and we ask you to rank 1, 2, and 3 what your career interests are. And then we track that through your tenure in the camp program. And again, you can change it at any time, but I'm constantly out selling jobs. I'm selling you. I'm selling our students. So I need a matrix to know what I'm selling, what you're interested in. You never know what comes up. For instance, the J.R. Coleman Adult Center also has an early child learning center. There's 100 students, over 100 students in there. It's a wonderful program. Well, we have students that want childhood education. So that's a great place to go. So I met with Tom Thompson, the CEO and the president, and we're working on a plan to get students in there. Physical therapy. I'm helping students find jobs in physical therapy. Sports marketing, we're going to the Arrows and the Hall of Fame. So I'm always selling to get experiences that are linked. Now, we do have jobs. For instance, we have 3 or 4 students right now working at the Habitat for Humanity. I could list 20, 25 skills that they're learning. And those would be organizational skills, it would be teamwork skills, things like that. But it's not, unless you're looking for nonprofit and that's your career path, it's not really linked. What we try to do eventually is, you want engineering? Try to find you something in engineering. You want sports marketing? We try to get you there. We try to get you as close as you can. A young lady who wanted anthropology, it's tough in Canton. She's in a library and she's doing great work. She's been there 2-3 years as she goes after her degree. But I think if we were in downtown Cleveland, I'd probably visit a few museums to see if we could get her some work. So that's what we try to do. We try to make the best link possible. We wanted to design a career training and development seminar. You'll see one this afternoon. If you go on the website, you'll see 3 years of seminars. You'll see 3 lawyers up here in an hour-and-a-half session presenting legal. And by the way, we have a table full of the bios of the operating committee, but every speaker comes in and they're asked about 10 or 12 questions. Why did you choose this career? Was this the original career you chose? What interested you the most? What's the pay? What's the salary range in this position? It asks some pretty good questions. So these speakers, when they come in, they fill that out. We've had engineers. We've had probably 6, 7 engineers. Dr. King in healthcare. If you're interested in healthcare, Dr. King just retired 45 years. He was on the board at both Altman and Mercy, right? And he's down in Florida now. He'll be back in about 2 weeks. Dr. King came on with us in May. We have had probably 3 seminars. We've had anesthesiologists, pharmacy, nursing, physician's assistants. He's run the whole gamut, come in and speak to you. This is unbelievable training and development. You know, you can't find this and pay for this anywhere. In addition, we have a blessing. There are 2 doctors that I golf with, and they own the West Medical Center, which is on the borderline of Canton and Massillon. And in December, we opened up 3 paid apprenticeships in healthcare. If you know anything about healthcare, usually you have to volunteer for about 10, 12 years. And then you get a paycheck. Justine Chester, Kiana Owens, and Daniel Tusu, all 3 graduates from here. Deborah goes here, Daniel's sister. And all 3 are working at West Medical while they're in college. So that's the kinds of opportunities, and that just happened in December. So it's wonderful to have those contacts and to make this happen. We needed administrative support, which we have. Mrs. Brunner works with me. She's my right arm. Mr. Brunner's my left, but I can't do without my right. I'm a righty. And she is invaluable. And anything you need, that lady is the one to see, okay? And then there was operating funds and donations, and we've been unbelievably blessed. The CAST organization has helped us, and we are totally self-funded. And the business community, the same people who give us jobs, they are absolutely wonderful individuals. And if I need anything, I go there and we get what we need to run the program. And the program is more than 5 figures to run. And we do a lot of things like you'll be receiving some welcoming gifts. These are gifts that we've given to the students for the last couple of years. We decided that they were necessary. It's a backpack. You'll be receiving laptops from a grant from the 21st Century that we received. All our students have laptops. You have a Padfolio. No matter where you go, the Padfolio should be on your hip. You go to a meeting with Mr. Brunner or Mrs. Brunner, you bring that Padfolio. Professional looking. Trust me, you can't keep all of this in your head. I'm pretty good at it, but you cannot. And so you need to write it down, take notes. I just had 2 individuals interview this week at Glenmore. I told them to bring actually they were from the tech program. They didn't have Padfolios. it dawned on me at the last second I ran downstairs, I had one. I was able to give one a pad folio to go in the interview. The other young man didn't even have a pad, so it was not professional and not good. So we try to do things that again, put you above everybody else. This is Officer Jackie Eckerman. This was the first, and then we repeated this session last year. So in 2013, we surveyed the students and the teachers, and we said, what's the biggest issue on your mind? And they said, this whole social networking, this whole website thing, this whole thing about predators on there, just terrible. Officer Jackie Eckerman came in for 45 minutes. You will be asked to view 3 or 4 of the presentations that's on the website, and within 2 months you're going to have to answer 3 or 4 questions on each of those videos and get them back to Mrs. Bruner. This is one mandatory one you need to watch. This whole social networking thing, this whole texting and everything that's going on, you need to see this officer present her results. And on the back of that is that lady I told you about that's got 25 years in human resources. So let's just say nothing happens to you legally from messing with the social networking. Let's say you were down on spring break and somebody took some pictures. And so now you're going to go apply to Timken, or you're going to go apply to Goodyear. And you've done all the steps and you've gotten through and you're in engineering or whatever. And your application goes to Mrs. Myers, and she goes on and she finds a couple of these photos of you down in Florida or Texas or Alabama and on spring break. And maybe you had too much to drink or something else, and it's sloppy. You know where your resume goes? Right in the garbage. So that video is going to tell you what the law is. And then it's going to tell you, okay, if you get by that, you still have to go look for a job. And in addition, every single one of our employees drug tests. So the 2 people I took down to Glenmore, one is working in the kitchen, the other one is working on the golf course, and both of them were drug tested. So there's no jobs, the higher the job, the more, they all drug test, so I'll just let you know that now. So this is a great video. This video, Dress for Success. You want to learn about tattoos, you want to learn about piercings, you want to learn about how to dress, what casual is, business casual, and then business. This is the one. We're going to mandate that you do look at this one also, correct? Yeah. Okay. But this was a professional shopper, 25 or 30 years with JCPenney's. And she was wonderful. And I would encourage anybody, and by the way, if you have any other siblings or any other people that you want to look at it, you can just go on the website and click on it, and if you have somebody who wants to be a lawyer, they can go in and look at the legal seminar. If you want somebody who wants to be a doctor, you can go in and look at any of Jim King's, anesthesiologist, nurse, whatever you want to look at. But there's also some powerful ones that are not career-oriented, but they certainly are life-oriented. We have engineering. Mr. LaRocca, Rich LaRocca, he just got back yesterday from Peru. He's retired. He's got 42 years. He knows every single engineer in Stark County. Matter of fact, we took 8 students to a dinner the other night, 2 weeks ago, and that was those 250 Stark County engineers were in that room. So you'll have an opportunity, sit with them. We had 3 or 4 come over. You ask questions. That's the networking. That's the start. It was wonderful. Was there a young...
Yeah, Austin.
Who was here? Austin, you were here. You were there. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Austin got a chance to participate in it. That was before we made the decision on him coming into Campo, before he interviewed. But he told Mrs. Bruner that he was interested in engineering, and we had an open spot, so Austin got an opportunity to go. But and they had somebody there from the all the dams and rivers and everything, which is, you know, the speaker, it was appropriate because of what's going on in Flint. And he was there to talk about the quality of our water and the things that they do and the engineering aspect of it. So very educational. I mean, again, it's things not easily accessible to anybody. Legal, Mike Denchek, he's on my operating committee. He owns a law firm in Canton. And he had two of his associates came in. They did a panel discussion on law. And they talked about different kinds of law. So, bless you. That's all over the website. And again, you can look on there, and there's so many more I did not list. We help you develop, while you're in high school, what's called a profile. It's not a resume, but it is the start. And by the way, these books in front of you, this will become part of your resume. The bios you receive today, any information, this career matrix, you're soon going to be handed out an example of a resume. This will all go in here, including notes. You're going to take notes. We're big on taking notes. When you leave here, when you go to college, these books will remain here. All of our graduates, most of them, some of them have taken them. Most of our graduate books are in those bins over there. Every time they come, we put it out. You may see a couple of graduates here at 2 o'clock, the ones that are local, obviously. But this is the start of your career building. So you take this, you take your notes, you put everything in there, and then we start to develop, when you're a junior, what's called a profile. This happens to be E.J. Dubinsky. This is Sarah's brother, who graduated from here 2 years ago. And I want you to know that E.J., I know it's a little tough to see, but at the time we put this together, E.J.'s work history was a hotel houseman, and then his first job that he received through the CAMP program was an IT and logistics intern at Freshmart. So he put this together in 2013, right after that summer internship. Okay? So it has education objectives. That's what you want to do in the near term and the long term. So near term, we are like 1 to 2 years, and long term is 3 to 5 for you. We have your education, so Stark State College is on there. It was at the time, I think, Timken, but so it would be McKinley, it would be the early college and everything else. Your GPA, your work history, what skills we discuss, what skills we think you have strengths in, and then your honors and interests. Here's what happens to you when you go off to college. EJ came back in the summer of 2014. He did such a great job. EJ went to work at Goodyear Tire and Rubber as an accounting intern. This is his transition from a profile to a full-blown resume. Mrs. Bruner is going to hand you out an example of another resume. This is a young lady I helped about 2-3 years ago. What you're going to see is the original resume that she sent to me, and then what you're going to see is after about a month or a month and a half of working with her, what it looks like on the back end. Again, this is something you can't necessarily get easily. You would think you would be able to go into a college, especially one that you're paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, and you would think you would be able to go into an office downstairs and have somebody do this for every single student in that school. And when I go to colleges, I make this pitch and I show them. And I show them resumes, or what they call resumes, from internally that they produced from somebody at a $10,000 school, a $20,000 school, and a $30,000 school. And I say, this is what we do, and this is what you should be doing. And we're going to help you out, because our students already know it, and we want them to come to your school. Now, how much money are you going to give them? And what, you're gonna give them room and board, you're gonna give them services, and you're gonna give them this and that and everything. And Mr. Bruner and I are constantly selling our kids. But that's the power of what they can go with. This young man, if he stays on this Goodyear path and does this young man will be hired by Goodyear at the end of next year when he graduates. Anybody guess what an engineer at Goodyear coming out of college would make? A salary? What is that? Say that again.
$63,000 a year.
$63,000 a year. That's EJ's sister, so she knows. $63,000 a year for EJ Dubinsky coming out of college. He's in Valparaiso. So that's the opportunity. And then we don't guarantee that again. You got to work hard. We're all working hard. All of the volunteers, everybody's working hard to get you here. But I think you all would agree, and especially the handout that Mrs. Bruner just gave with that young lady, if you looked at the before and after, I think you agree this is pretty valuable for them. So we went through the career training and development seminars. In addition to the job preparation, interviewing skills. The two people who went down to Glenmore, even though it was in the kitchen and on the golf course, I spent personally with them probably an hour each, and then on the phone beforehand about another half an hour, 40 minutes, asking them, did they have any questions, trying to keep them calmed down, making sure that they had questions. And if you go on our website, you'll see articles across everything, including what's the 10 interviewing tips, what's the 3 main questions you're going to need to answer almost on every interview, what are 5 good questions to ask the employer. I mean, we give you all of those tips, but we have training and development on that. And then to secure apprenticeships. Year 1, we had 7 apprenticeships. 2014, so that was 13. That's what we worked on in 13. Here's 14, we secured 17 apprenticeships. There's the companies. They range from minimum wage all the way up to $17.50 an hour. I have been able to convince these corporations, because they have 6 years into 4, I've been able to convince the corporations that we're sending you sophomores or juniors in college. And they're mature enough. Even though their age is young, they're mature enough because they just handled 6 years in 4. It's worked extremely well. We have not been disappointed. But I am very protective. I am very protective of what we built here, because I can't ruin this for future generations. So I was pretty tough on those going out. I'm pretty tough on EJ. And even right now, I sent EJ an email and said, did you contact Louise, his manager back in Goodyear? And he'll say, well, I'm on my way to Amsterdam because a buddy just invited me. And I go, I don't care. Did you contact Louise? Well, I'm leaving tomorrow. I said, do it now, please. And then AJ sends the email. So he's a graduate and everything, but I have to protect these apprenticeships, because if I don't, they'll go away. And if they go away, they want to be available for you. Okay? The next thing we worked on, most importantly, 7 of those 17 positions resulted in part-time work while they were continuing in high school in junior and senior year. So at Habitat, we've got some high school students that work Saturdays and either 1 or 2 days a week after school. So it works out great for them. Same with Glenmore. We have students working there. We had jobs at Javasi. So that was kind of like what we call a lucky strike extra. Then we put in liaisons and a mentoring program. So in the workplace, every student has a liaison. We don't just throw you out there. What does that mean? Every 2 weeks, this liaison will call you. How you doing? You have any questions? By the way, you can call the liaison anytime. You call myself, call Mrs. Bruner, Mr. Bruner. Doesn't matter. We are accessible 24 hours a day for you to call us and text us or email us if you got an issue. But while you're at work, how's it going? You having any problems with any other employees, any supervisors? Now, right after they hang up with you, they call the supervisor. And they say, how's everything going with Zach or Joe? Do we have any issues with them getting there on time? How are they dressed? Are they doing too much texting? You know, what's going on? They're sleeping at their desk, you know? So we find out these things right away. And it's because at the end of an apprenticeship, after 8 to 10 weeks, we don't want to find out that there's all these problems and frustrations, so we get them out right away. We had 19 apprenticeships this summer, and there was not one single issue with 19 jobs, 8 to 10 weeks across the summer. Our liaisons love it. They love to talk to the students. And it was wonderful. So we graduate the first class in 2013, and they're in school now during 14. I think we had 6 graduates. We ran into some problems. I told you one about a young lady who failed her first class, and it happened to be in her major. We quickly swept her up. We transferred her to a new school, and she started fresh in another school. We had 2 students we knew nothing about. Both wound up leaving school. One has gone back since, the other one has not. So I was very frustrated, and Mr. Bruner was very frustrated too, because it's like, wait a second, we did all this work, we got all the, you know, we're putting in all these resources, we've got time, energy, money, you know, you're doing a wonderful job graduating them with associate's degrees. How come I don't feel good about only half the students who leave are continuing to be successful? So we got together as the operating committee, again, very smart individuals, and they said, well, why don't we put in the liaison program for the graduates? We now have 30 liaisons calling our graduates once a month. We have a head of the liaison program that works with Mrs. Bruner. She recaps everybody to make sure they're checking in. The grades have to be sent to Mr. Bruner, even in college. We don't need to see them, but a permission slip needs to be signed by them before they leave here. So our seniors this year, in June, will sign a permission slip that says they will send their grades every semester to Mr. Bruner. If you're flunking out, I can't put you back in Goodyear or Timken or Freshmark. It's unacceptable. We need to keep an eye on you and know what you're doing, but most importantly, it's just another person giving you a ring every 30 days saying, hi, how you doing? Can I help you with anything? We had several students that needed help with tutoring. We got it for them. We pay for, if you get a job and they require you to be dressed business attire, we do that. Mrs. Bruner, Mrs. V, Mrs. Myers will take the ladies shopping. I will take the guys shopping. We'll get you what you need to be successful. That's what we do. I'll talk to you about a transportation program we're putting in here for this year. But this liaison program has worked extremely well. And we've had a couple of fallouts, but I think our graduation rate and our success rate is similar to yours now, Mr. Bruner, in high school, so we're feeling pretty good about that. About 85% of the students are retaining and sticking with the program. There is a portion of the graduating that think they have it figured out, and they've departed from the program, and you know, if you don't supply your grades, or you're flunking out, or you don't come to the meetings during your breaks, we'd like to have you here during the holiday break when you can, and we'd like to see you in the summer if you're home. If you're not home during the summer, like with Montgomery Twins will be international this summer, so we won't expect them to come. We'll give them, you know, a pass. But if you're home, if you're here, if you're in in Canton and Stark County, we'd like you to show up. It's important that you see the alumni coming back and following them and talking to them and having them be role models to you long-term and ongoing. The other two things we worked on in 2014 was this whole Big 8 strategy with the colleges. Here's the colleges that Mr. Bruner and I went to. Believe me, it's paying huge dividends. We have a young lady, physical therapy, she got 20 on an ACT. 20 is not great, okay? But we don't put anybody down for that. We want you to take it as many times as you can. The only thing we tell you is at 26, there's another break. It's called the honors in most every college, and that's more money. And then there's another break at 32. But to be honest with you, a 20 to a 21, they'll give you more money. A 21 to a 22, they'll give you more money. There's no science to it. But Mr. Bruner and I have talked to enough people in the colleges. Every single point means money for you. So we're going to keep pushing you and pushing you. If they won't pay for it, we get on the phone. We won't pay for extra applications. We get them to waive it, or we consider paying for it out of the CAMP program. We want you to have all the opportunities you can. I could list you 10 examples of where, when Mr. Bruner put his list together, it says, here's all the early college students that are going to your school, Akron, Kent, with our contacts. The money went from here to here. We have a young lady that I said 20. She's going for physical therapy, sports therapy. And she may wind up with a full ride from Youngstown State. That's that whole Tressel thing who said, I want your kid. I see the value. Not only do they have an associate's degree, but you got this CAMP program that nobody else has. And what this has led to was this whole other notion of lifting all boats. So if we can train and develop them in high school, the students, in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, we can get them some jobs and some experience in their 11th and 12th grade. We can get them to attend a Northeast Ohio school, and 8 could go to 10 next year if we decide to visit Toledo or Ohio University. We haven't made those decisions yet. Ohio State was another one everybody asks about, but now you're talking $35,000 a year or something. So well, we don't know. We haven't decided that yet. But we know if we can get you to attend a Northeast Ohio school, if we can give you this liaison mentoring through high school, colleges, jobs, and apprenticeships, and then we help you with resumes, interviewing skills, and networking in Northeast Ohio for employment, we think that this would have an impact on the community. We're hoping that, and that's why we're also pressing for the alumni to come back and be part of this. Like E.J. Dubinsky, and we have Justine Chester. They are actively involved. Matt Sigley. We have quite a few graduates that we would like them to come back. I would like them standing up here and giving this presentation, not necessarily me, because now you would have one of your peers almost, removed from the program maybe 3-4 years, not really removed. They have to be here in the, during the breaks, and they have to put their grades in, but they would be up here talking about, this is my experience, and this is what I've experienced. And so that's why we think this will have a lasting effect. That is Mr. Bruner and I with Jim Tressel, but this is, when we go to colleges and sell them, these are the kinds of statistics that we are selling them. Now, I was in sales, so when I would go to sell something, like a new product, we do all of this research on the product and statistics, and I'd have a whole table full, and then you pick out these statistics, especially based on the customer you're going to see. So if it's Walmart or Target or Acme or Giant Eagle, you would go pick out these statistics, and you put them into a presentation, and you would develop what you call owner benefits. So when I started to look at the owner benefits in the early college high school students, it was really easy to put this presentation together. I mean, look at the average camp student's GPA and ACT. When you're dealing with these companies, diversity is huge. I mean, they have goals and targets, so it's very important for them. Our students do 30 hours of service work. That's what Mr. Bruner does on his side. We teach them competencies and skills. If they need speaking skills, by the way, I would encourage you speech and debate. We had 4 students every year graduate, have an apprenticeship at Freshmark. It's like clockwork. They have to get up in front of the owner and about 20 senior managers, and they have to do a 4-page presentation. It's a canned presentation. What was your assignment? What were the results? What did you learn? What do you like about the company? What do you think the company can do to improve? It's on the website, by the way. Mr. Bruner went and taped those presentations. But it's very obvious out of the 4 students, which of those students took speech and debate and which did not. The skills that you would learn, the interpersonal skills, the communication skills, I strongly encourage you, if you can fit it in, do that. It'll pay huge dividends for you down the road. Again, our students, so go take a McKinley, go take a Jackson graduate, okay, which is, you know, highly touted in the district or in the county, and go match these experiences with our students next to theirs. It just blows your mind. So this is what we can go sell to these colleges. And I sell the same thing to the businesses. This is exactly, they're intermingling presentations. So if I'm going to Debo or I'm going to Goodyear, this is what I'm selling. I'm selling you and your results. This was 1,000 executives at the end of 2013. They asked them, when you are interviewing somebody and a student comes in and they're applying for a job, they just graduated college, what are the most important things to you as an executive? Well, look what they picked as number 1, internships. Look at number 2, what did you do during college? Did you have volunteer experience? Do you have work experience? Or were you just kind of partying, you know, sitting around? They want to know what you did during college. Third thing is your volunteer experience. So all this wonderful volunteer experience that's open to you through CAST, through Habitat, through J.R. Coleman, I would encourage you to keep doing that. It's important when we put that on your resume. 69%, the top 3 represent 69%. We have that, our students have that. So when I talked about a competitive advantage, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about them walking in there with 69% of what they're looking for before they even open their mouth and answer a question. We go through this whole process of graduating. We guarantee you that our students we send you will graduate in 2 to 4 years. If you don't think this is a big idea, does anybody know what percentage of the Akron freshmen that entered last year, any idea what percentage of them will graduate on time? Anybody? Take a guess. 18. 19%. 19% will graduate on time. I mean, it just blows my mind. So we're saying, we're giving you students that have associate's degrees, we're encouraging them to even double major or major and minor and have a safety net, and we'll still get them out. We'll still get them out before it's time. Then we tell them, okay, here's where you stack up. So this is Youngstown. So we had 1 student go to Youngstown from early college. So 4 years, right? 225 graduates, would you say?
over
In
that
4
time
years?
period.
One student went. That was the student who failed the first major, and we had to go rescue her and move her out of that school. That student did not even graduate from Youngstown. So you know what, Mr. Tressel? Zippo. But look, Mr. Tressel, how many students went to Kent State? They know our kids. They're recruiting our kids. They're getting these high-quality kids. What are you doing? He was like, right, Ken? He had his right-hand man next to him, head of admissions, president of admissions, and he just said, this has got to change. And so that's what we want to hear. I mean, for me, it was like, okay, where's your purchase order and how much should I send you? And I'm a salesman, so I have 15 graduates. Would you like all 15? Just give me free rides to each and every one of them, including room and board. And if you have any jobs around the campus, and so we just keep selling. But anyway, then we go into something's wrong with this picture because look at where the Stark County grads are going. So this is all Stark County. Look where the early college high school grads are going. See the bottom one, elsewhere? Elsewhere means they are leaving Northeast Ohio. You know what the chances are of retaining you or you coming back to Northeast Ohio after you leave here? Pretty slim. Pretty slim. The doctor from EdWorks,
Adrian O'Neill.
what's that?
Dr. O'Neill.
Dr. O'Neill, one of the original founders and creators with Bill Gates at the Early College High School. When I said that to that audience a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta, she goes, 0. And I go, you're probably right, doctor. So what's going on? You know, why aren't, you know, everybody's complaining about that they're not getting quality students, or you got these schools like Kent State that are giving full rides to students from Indiana and Michigan and every place else, and I'm like, you got them right here in your backyard. I go to Akron, who's got abysmal numbers. I mean, every 3 months there's a new set of numbers published on Akron University about something, and it's not good. And I'm like, what are you doing? If I were you, I'd take every single graduate, every 55 or 60 that come out, and give them full rides. This is guaranteed slam dunk. But no, you're going out of state. It's mixed up. It's mixed up. So this is part of the same lift all boats and what we're trying to get done in selling our students. We've done a pretty good job. Remember, we're 3 years old. In 2012, 11 graduates went to the Big 8 out of the early college high school. Last year, 22. We've doubled the number of graduates out of the school attending Northeast Ohio schools. And we're pretty proud to say that they're also getting more money, more scholarship money, more grant money, everything they can possibly give them. So that's part of the equation. That's part of the equation. We go through another, well, this is the recommendations. Mount Union put a scholarship in that's only available to our camp students when they saw our presentation. $7,500 for our students who carry a 3.0 GPA, $10,000 if you carry a 3.5. That's good for every year you go, it's renewable. And that's only available as a camp student. So, Daniel Tessau is going there right now for nursing. And we have several other seniors that have applied there now because of this. So we present this to the schools and say, what are you going to do for us? We ask them for everything, including on-campus job stipends, work college credits, room and board, books, and computers. And we ask them to support what we have going on here and make the early college, high school, a feeder group for them. So that they're coming after you, but they're coming after you in a way that they're going after all of these students out of state. 2015, so that's last year. This is what we worked on. We secured 20 paid apprenticeships. 10 of those positions have now resulted in part-time / full-time work in high school and or in college. And 3 of them were in that West Medical, which I told you, so very, very happy about that. We're looking to put 2 or 3 more in West Medical of our graduates this year that are in nursing and physical therapy, so they'll go into paid internships. Speaking of one of those students, hi, Kiana. We want to train them on competencies and success classes. Mr. Bruner and the district have put success classes in the classroom. Well, what Mr. Bruner did is said, hey, these competencies, which you guys are always talking about these skills, there's 64 of them. Lominger is, you can look it up, Lominger, L-O-M-I-N-G-E-R. These are skills, also known as competencies. I said, why don't we put them in the classroom? We have professionals coming in from the outside, teaching competencies in Mr. Bruner's classes 4 times a year. So we taught 4 sets of competencies this year. Next year we'll teach 4 more. I don't know how many we'll get to. Maybe by the time from your freshman year to your senior year, you might be exposed to 16 to 20 of them officially, but you'll be training on competencies all throughout the camp program. You will know what it means and how important problem solving as a competency is. Risk-taking, ethics, business ethics. You'll know about organization skills, communication, teamwork. I could go on and on, probably maybe list 60 out of the 64. But don't underestimate how important that is. By the way, when you pick up a job application, that job application will tell you what they're looking for. If you go through it and you decipher any kind of job posting, you'll come up with 6 to 8 things they're looking for. Those 6 to 8 things they're looking for are 6 skills they want you to have and to know. Once you understand how to find those, once you understand how you possess those skills, and if they're strengths of yours, or if they're areas you need to develop, you will nail it. You will absolutely nail it. You walk into those interviews, I got skills, here they are, this is what you're looking for, boom, it becomes a wonderful thing. There isn't a question that you sit down that you can't answer, and then with all of your background, you'll have it made. We started a program called Technical Camp. We have 15 students in. It's run by Mrs. Miza, Diane Miza. She just retired from the school district. It's run by Beth Starrett, who is in the program and actually replaced part of Mrs. Miza's job. And it's run by Debbie Myers, the lady I told you had 25 years with Debo HR. The 3 of them, we have 15 students in from McKinley. These are tech/vocational. The 2 people that interviewed at Glenmore this week, they were out of the technical camp program. I personally know the man who runs 350 Goodyear automotive stores nationally. There's 2 Goodyear stores in Canton. The students that are going for automotive in McKinley will have an opportunity to get jobs there, start in their bays, start as mechanics, and work their way up to store managers. So that's the connections. It doesn't just mean you, wonderful, talented individuals. We can't forget about the rest of the students in the population. So, and the reason, I have to tell you, the main reason, because we can only do so much as a volunteer organization. Every time I do something, I need a new volunteer to head it up because I'm supposed to be retired. And I'm back to working almost full time. But the point is that you want to do it right. Whatever you do, you have to do it right. We put our toes in and we test it, and we come back. We don't always, we're not 1,000% successful. We have some failures. We regroup, we figure it out, and then we figure whether we go forward in a new path, same path with tighter controls, or what we do. But every company I went to said, that's great, I'll give you these wonderful jobs for these talented people, but I need truck drivers, and I need warehouse people, and I need welders, and I need mechanics, and we cannot forget about them. These companies are dying for our technical and our vocational laborers. So it made absolutely sense. We use the same model. GPA is lower. We have the same roles and responsibilities over in Tech Camp. We don't have as great a success rate because they're not as disciplined, I think, as our students are over in early college, thanks to a lot of you. But we're getting there. And this will be 4 students that we placed out of technical. 2 of them are doing, matter of fact, Adrian Allison did a wonderful thing. We had Timken come and say, we'll give your 2, both of them were, one was welding, one was electrician. Timken Corporation said, we'll put 2 kids on from McKinley this past summer, 2015, 8 to 10 weeks. If they're doing good, we'll offer them a job to continue through their senior year. They need to work a half a day here and do a half a day at school. And Adrian, for those 2 young men, redid their entire school workload, yes. And they are now ready to graduate high school. And the theory is that Timken's going to offer them full-time jobs. So that work-study program, which is, by the way, when I went to school, we had those. And it was my understanding in Canton, my wife and I have been here 9 years. We were in Hudson for about 8 or 9 years before that. But it's my understanding here in Canton, years ago, Timken trained and developed those workers for Hoover and Debo and Goodyear, and they were trained and developed here, and that's where they recruited them. And we've gotten way away from that. I mean, it's way away from that. So this is kind of an effort to get back there. We've put our toes in, and everything is going extremely well. In 16, we're going to work on 2 things. So you'll notice, so 16 would be, we're 3-year anniversary, but a calendar year, the 4th year. Or if you notice, we just picked off a couple of things each year, made sure we did it well, had the right resources. We weren't overworked and understaffed from a volunteer perspective, funding everything. So the 2 things we're working on is transportation. It is amazing that these jobs that I have, that we've created, I can't get our students to because of lack of transportation. SARTA only goes so far. We are sending 10 students, they start next week, paid drivers education program out of the camp funds. So that's a little over $3,000. We're going after a grant right now. If we get that grant, all early college high school students, not just camp students. So Mr. Bruno will be able to offer 50 to 60 driver ed programs annually. If I can't get them to these jobs, what good does it do? And if they're only limited to the jobs that are along SARTA lines, then I can't, how can they experience these wonderful things at Goodyear, Smuckers in Orville? What a wonderful place. Matt Sigley, we're looking for another one right now, another internship at Smuckers. What a great company. Top 50 companies to work for in the United States is right in our backyard. I can't get them there unless I get them transportation. So we're working on this. It's a big initiative for us. Dave Walters lives in our neighborhood. A bunch of car guys live in our neighborhood. They've already agreed that they would sell to the students cars, trade-ins, and auctions at cost, no markup. And then the thing we have to work on is subprime lending, so that they're not getting ripped off and things like that. So we're working on this, and it's going to be a big deal for us. And then we've started financial health. We had our first session in February. We'll have our next one, I think, in April. And then for the seniors, they'll get a crash course in May before they go off to school. But everything from debit cards, credit scores, they have to look it up, to what is good debt, how to manage college. I mean, there's some real horror stories. I have a nephew that's got $120,000 in loans. I mean, he walked in, and on his bed were about 4 or 5 debit cards worth $5,000 each. All he had to do was go put it in the machines and start taking money out. Guess what he did? So, you know, you just need to be exposed to that. We need to know how to manage it. And by the way, the majority of the students who graduated last year, 15 of them out of the CAMP program, their number one concern was how to manage college loans. They were scared. So we have to make sure, and Mark Savodio, who's running that program, he'll be here shortly. He is a financial advisor. He's wonderful at it. We also have a gentleman who ran a $2 billion hedge fund, Mr. DePietro, he'll be here also. So between the two of them, they know what they're talking about. Won't go into this other than we have been extremely fortunate to receive a grant from the 21st Century. That's why all our students can have laptops that are currently in the program. And then we were again blessed when Mr. Laraca from engineering and Dr. Gloria Donovan, who's on the operating committee, put together a grant, and we received a grant from the Timken Foundation. All of our seniors starting in last year. So that was the first group leave and go off to college with a brand new laptop and a printer to their dorms. And Mr. Laraca will be buying the 15 new ones for this year. But when you go off to college, you will be, freshmen will be the last class. We got to get the grant renewed. But any sophomores, any juniors, that will be available to you. So it'll be whatever the latest and greatest. I think the ones we sent in 15 were touchscreen laptops and mini printers that you can just slide under your bed or have on a little desk. So it's working out great. It won't go through these lessons learned, but I think the most important thing, so I'm giving, Mr. Bruner and I are giving this to Atlanta. They want to know how to do this. And look, there's a lot of components to the secret sauce and everything, but the bottom line is, if you bring together the right people with the right hearts and the right minds, all targeted to the same objective, you can get it done. But I mean, this is a major part of the blueprint. If it isn't in here, it's not gonna happen. Okay, we're gonna take some questions and answers, but I did want to make sure Mrs. Bruner's gonna hand out the attendance policy right now. Again, this is tight. It's tight because what we found is when we didn't have it tight, it kind of grew like a cancer. And when it grew, you know, we had to tell students that, you know, what the consequences were. So this way you know right up front. Now, when it comes to absences and unexcused absences, as long as we know a week in advance, and as long as it's a credible reason for you not being at the seminar, we're fine with that. It's unexcused. It's excused, excuse me. Anything less than that, I mean, you can't imagine how many students we get on a Thursday or a Friday that say, oh, I have to work. You know, they might be working in a McDonald's or something like that. Well, that's an unexcused absence because we give you the schedule 6 to 9 months before. I'm ready to publish the schedule for July through December next week with Mrs. Bruner. So you will have the next 8 months of seminars. And if all of a sudden in October you're telling me that 2 days before the seminar, it's unexcused. So we're pretty tight on this. Again, Mrs. Bruner is the clearinghouse for all of this. And by the way, we're trying to teach you some communication skills. the number one thing we can teach you is these communication skills. It will carry you for the rest of your life, both good and both bad. So you need to communicate. If we're giving you laptops, there's not really a good excuse not to send an email. Now, if it's broken, then you stop in and see Mrs. Bruner and you tell her your laptop's broken or something. You got texting, right? You got every which way you can go to make sure that you communicate. So we're going to be pretty hard and fast on these rules. As far as academics, we'll allow your GPA to go down. We haven't had that as I think maybe one student in 3 years or 2 students, and then we jump on it right away. We get you the resources you need, and then we lift you right back up and you're back in the program. We have not had to dismiss anybody because of academics, but we do require that you do what you have to do. It's no good if I'm training you for careers, getting you jobs, and you don't have the academics. So that's number one. It's always number one. It will be number one when you're on the job, and I don't care what anybody says. I acquiesce to that man over there, and he makes all those calls. There's a cancellation policy. By the way, I woke up this morning, it was like, today's the first day of spring, right? But we have had to cancel in the past 3 years 2 sessions due to inclement weather. There are, Mrs. Bruner's passing it out. Again, you got a laptop, you need to get on there, you need to look at the website, we'll post it on there first. Mrs. Bruner will be sending texts, emails if there's a cancellation. Sometimes we don't cancel till an hour or 2 before, you know, because we're waiting to see, can we get by and is the weather going to change? Okay, your commitments, okay? No-cut training seminars, 1 Sunday per month from 2 to 4. Again, any reasonable explanation why you can't be there. We have a couple of students today that are away with their families because of the spring break. They had planned trips. That's fine. Even in the apprenticeships, if you have something scheduled for the summer and it's a vacation, we'll make time for you to do that within the apprenticeship. Usually 1 week's okay. If you say you're going away for a month, it's not going to happen. We'll pass. We'll go to somebody else for an 8 to 10 week apprenticeship. When I say business mentor meetings, that could be with myself, could be with liaisons, whatever, but plan on maybe 1 to 2 hours quarterly. Usually in your junior and senior years, when we start to get serious about your jobs and colleges and everything, we're meeting with you more on one-on-one basis. By the way, we have a wonderful camp office Mrs. Bruner has put together across the street. Is there an official name for that building?
Satellite building.
The satellite building across the street. It's a wonderful, her office is in there, mine is, and there's a camp office, which is more like a student center in a college. Mrs. Bruner's got, we put Wi-Fi in there, our own Wi-Fi, because we're not allowed to use the district's Wi-Fi. So there's a hotspot. So you bring your laptops, you can do work in there. I'll walk in there, there'll be students in there studying, doing work. Mrs. Bruner has a small refrigerator with some water and refreshments in there. There's a coffee machine in there to make some tea. She's even got a popcorn machine in there. So you guys can take advantage of that camp office. When Mr. Bruner has OGT testing and everything else going on, there isn't a computer to be had in the school. That's when you would bring your laptops. These wonderful backpacks you get and have got a nice protected padding for your laptop. Bring it in, you can go over there, okay? You will be responsible to develop that profile and resume. You'll spend time. We insist on punctuality, attentiveness, a positive attitude. You are responsible to safeguard the computer and the laptop. Ms. Bruner's going to give you the paperwork in a second to take home. I think we plan on giving you the laptops in April. In the April session, read through all the material. We'll talk about the responsibilities, what you're responsible for, so on and so forth. Any questions, get back to Mrs. Bruner. But if all goes well, you will have them by the April session. Communication is imperative with Mrs. Bruner, Mr. Bruner, or myself, and that means checking emails, your attendance. We take attendance every session, once a month. Checking the camp website, and any changes in your phone or your email, you're responsible to get that to Mrs. Bruner. Okay? I think that's it, right? Wow, that's a lot. Yes, Sarah.
Assignments we have for actual.
The questions are what type of assignments? The assignment you'll have as a new incoming will be to review X amount of videos. It'll either be 3 or 4 videos. Answer some questions and get that back into Mrs. Bruner, and we'll give you a couple of months. The other assignments will be the paperwork for the computers. You will not get to the point where we're doing profiles and resumes until you're a junior, so somewhere right around there. Although if your age, it'll be a combination of your age. If your age says work eligible, it's really tough for us to put students under 17 in some of these organizations. So we may have 1 or 2 16-year-olds like in Habitat or something like that, which we'll try for, but it'll be a combination of that. But you won't be doing the profile work. Other than that, we don't have any assignments. You have to maintain your books, your portfolios, and there's no other real work and assignments as far as that's concerned. Yes? You know, it depends on the company, number one. See, the issue is that you're generally being folded into what they call their college recruiting internship program. They'll go, for instance, Goodyear will go to Ohio University, Miami of Ohio, Ohio State, all of the local schools, Akron and Kent. They'll spend 3 days and interview hundreds and hundreds of students and then select out of a pool. What we've been able to do is get you into this pool, right? So what we would be asking is them to change their timeline and guidelines based on the students that we want to get in there, and it's sometimes just unreasonable. Somebody like a Timken or a Goodyear probably will not. But you would have plenty of plan for that. I would be talking to you about that in your sophomore, junior year. You would have to make a decision at that point if the 2 weeks is, you know, is that important, or can you change it, or, you know, what the priorities are at that point. I know I can get away with 1 week. I haven't tried 2. We've gotten away with Kayla Ganeri, has interned at Freshmark last year. She needed to leave a week early to go to Ohio State, and they let her do that. So I know 1 week absence or moving on the front or the back is probably possible, but if it's a big chunk of time right in the middle of this 8 to 10 weeks, it's probably not going to happen. Any other questions? No? That's it?
What about the kids that are involved with another program, such as the one with Stark State, Upward Bound, and FAME? They go to class 6 weeks out of the summer. And, you know, that's going to continue through senior year. What would happen with those?
Where's Jack? I saw Jack come in. Jack's in Upward Bound.
Okay, as far as the Upward Bound program, you probably can get they probably can get released from the program, the Upward Bound program, like an excuse from that. But with the internship, because I had an internship over the summer at Freshmark, North Corporate Accounting, and I'm in the Upward Bound program, the Ohio State Upward Bound program, and I was able to get an excused absence from the program so that I would be able to do the internship. So I would look into getting them an excused absence from the program, because the internship it takes priority over Upward Bound, I would say, because that's good experience, job experience that, you know, somebody at this age can get. So I would look for an excused absence for the program.
Jack's not the only one in Upward Bound either, and so, however, I will tell you, if you're involved in sports, and we have run into some issues, depending on what it is, so wrestling, basketball, baseball, so on and so forth, we like to try to think it's a give and take and a two-way street. It doesn't always work that way. You know, we're obviously passionate about what we do. We have a lot invested, more sweat equity than anything. But we, with the athletes, we'll make exceptions there too. But we want to be realistic. I mean, if I have an engineer panel coming in and I have somebody playing sports who wants to be an engineer, or we're going to an engineer dinner, or we got a bus trip to Akron which has an engineer career fair, and the student is going to a practice, and you know, we can't manage that for the one-time exception a year. It does cause problems, but we have worked through 99% of everything.
And we do have a good working relationship with Tony Lee, who is a coordinator now over at Ohio, the Stark State Math Science Upward Bound. He came from the Ohio State API Upward Bound, so he's familiar with that.
My only question is just with the kids in general, just to make sure that they're successful with the program, that, you know, they got the early college and all the other things going on. I just want to know, like, as far as in parent support, what you guys do to help us make sure our kids are successful.
You want to take them? Want to get that?
The things that we do to make them successful. So he talked about the liaison piece and then the students checking here. So because they're part of this program, Mrs. Bruner does go through and ask me for the GPAs of the students so that she can keep tabs on them and make sure that they're okay. Any help or resources or things like that they need, we make sure that we guide them in the right direction. So they have that extra support and help. It's like an extra mother on top of them to help them out. The process to make sure they go the right way.
Yeah. It's a good question. I always say that one of the reasons we are so successful in the camp program is because we do have the support at home. Now, I think we just take that as a given because you're in early college and there's a required involvement and support. And so we have the benefit of that in the camp program. When we send a warning letter, it not only goes to the student, it goes to whoever is signing at home. When you get that, I mean, I would expect that you would be, hey, you know, what's going on? You didn't tell me you weren't going to camp. You know, you made a decision and, you know, you got a warning, and it's my understanding that your second one is probation and your third one you're out. So I would expect that kind of support. You bring up a good question, and I'm going to take that back to the operating committee and say, what else can we do? You're all invited to every session we have. Any Sunday, you can come. You know, I would also encourage you, if we ever do the police officer again, or you want to listen to Mr. Sabodio do the financial 101, please attend. I mean, we would like that, because that would be great support, I think, showing the students too that you'd like to come. So every session is open to any guests that you want to come. But I will take that up with the operating committee in April, and we'll think about that. I'll give that some thought. That's a very good question. Anybody else? Okay, so with that, where's Mrs. Bruner? Where's my right arm? Oh. Hey, do you have anything to cover? Okay, you want them to pick up their portfolios and their backpacks? After the seminar? After the 2 o'clock seminar?
Yes.
Okay, so when you're done, please take one of these wonderful backpacks and the portfolios. They're yours. Welcome. Congratulations. And we'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes breaking, get something to drink, get some snacks, and please say hi to the operating committee. They're all standing in the back waiting for me to shut up. So thank you, everybody, for your attention.
And no, she didn't. She's right here.
Ice pick.
Hello, good afternoon. Happy spring. So, if I remember correctly, when we were doing the holiday party, right, I said happy winter and it was like 60 degrees. But today's happy spring and it's snowing out. Something is wrong with this picture. Yeah, Ohio. So, first of all, I am ecstatic to see many of our graduates here. And I will embarrass you. And by the way, we have 20 brand new camp students here. I'll introduce them in a second, not individually, but as a group. And I talked about you guys quite often in the first hour and a half, so of how proud we are of each and every one of you. So I'm going to ask you and embarrass you, please stand up and welcome. Graduates. Graduates, come on. Thank you. And all 5 of those graduates were part of the apprenticeship program, and several of them are working right now, and all of them are in college. So congratulations. To the camp students, thank you for your cards and your emails, and your texts and your prayers. And just want to let you know I'm not going anywhere because we have a lot more work to do. So thank you very much. Speaking of that and the work I have to do, and I'll embarrass you too, but it's not an embarrassment. You should be very, very proud. We have 20 brand new camp students. All you seniors will be waving to you in August as you go off to school, but we have some exciting new students right behind you. So would you all mind just standing up, please? like to thank, in particular, Mrs. Bruner and Mr. Bruner for carrying on in February and running what I heard great comments as a great meeting, not only a camp seminar, but the operating committee. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to introduce to you today all members of my operating committee, all unbelievable people. When I talk to you about the sweat equity that's involved in running this program, that's another way of saying they don't get paid anything, right? They're volunteers, and they do this because, remember at the end of that slide we talked about if you don't have a heart, and you're not after the same purpose, and you don't have passion, all of these people have that. Please give a round of applause to members of that. So here's how I think this should go, and I thought this was a great recommendation for a seminar. And probably one, I think my operating committee's been telling me to do this for 2 years, but I haven't listened to them.
So we waited for you not to be there.
So they waited for me to be gone, and then they voted on it and instituted it. That's why I can't go anywhere. Exactly. But in this case, I don't mind. So, the new camp students. You have the bios, I believe, in front of you. Take a look at them. We'd like you to participate. Hopefully the session is going to run about an hour. We would like, at that time, we're going to break up a little bit early, give you a chance to mingle with the operating committee, okay? 15, 20 minutes before you all head out. But again, I talked to you, and I've said it to you before, and camp, all of camp students know that, and I tout it in everywhere I go, there's over 500 years of experience in this operating committee. I haven't added up how much is here, but it's a lot, and there's a lot of knowledge here, and if you don't take advantage of it each and every time you can, I think you're making a mistake. So meet with them, ask them questions. Maybe it's questions you didn't want to ask during the session or we didn't get to. New camp students, see if you can come up with. Read a couple of the bios. Pick something out. Write it down in your brand new portfolio books, which we talked about. And so we're going to be looking at the other camp students. We need some questions for this distinguished group. Again, I was so impressed when we had the panel of alumni that were up there. I would suspect that you would do the same thing. So, who wants to start? Yes.
The question's for Mr. John Sypak. In the career path bio, it says that you were with Broadway Express for 31 years, starting off as supervisor and reaching the position of senior VP of operations. How would you stress moving in positions, like, meaning, is it asked, is it like it's given, or you feel like at a certain level you've been with somebody, you say, hey, can I move out of position? I feel I'm qualified for this position.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. Good question. I would look at it two ways. Is number one, we much like you get grades or report cards, we got performance appraisals during our career. And that really gave us an opportunity for them to tell us how we were doing, and for us to be able to tell them what our goals were at that point in time. And I don't think enough people take advantage of that, even as I continue to perform performance appraisals now, is people don't, I used to put them on the spot and say, okay, where do you see me going in the next 6, 12, 18 months? I would like this opportunity here, or would like this opportunity here, much like what Mr. Venturella tries to accomplish in the outcome committee, in these type of things, is make sure you have a plan, a goal, and how you're going to get there. And I think the other side is I was willing and had a great wife that supported me in the fact that some of the positions that I wanted, I had to move, physically relocate to another location. So if I wanted to stay at one place, there was some limitations about what I could achieve, but if I was willing to relocate, then those opportunities were in different locales. Thanks.
Yeah, just to add to that, I had my first book, I was so blessed. You know, everybody up here will say, we never had a program like this, and boy, if we had a program like this, I mean, if I had a nickel for every time they said that, I could retire a second time. But I had a boss who, he was an unbelievable mentor. I mean, if you ever wanted to have the boss in the world, this was the guy. But he restricted himself. He stayed on Long Island. He was with the Maxwell's Coffee Division, and therefore he got to a certain level, and that was it. He understood that. He understood what that restriction meant to him. We moved 11 times in 20 years. That was our decision. To Mr. Sipek's point, boy, you better have a good support system. I also was personally involved with people who work for me, where moving actually destroyed marriages and partnerships and had some real damaging effects on the family. So those are key decisions you need to make as you go along, and certainly if you ever come across them, any one of us would be glad to help you with that. Okay, any other questions? Let's go.
I just had a question for Dr. Petrie. I was thinking about going into dentistry, and I wanted to know that if there's anything that you wish you would have done, or something that you think you should do sooner, or something that you did do that you think I should also do going into this career.
Are you talking in terms of education, experiences, or in general? Boy, I don't think so. Your career path is pretty well outlined if you're considering dentistry. It's basic science program is what you'll take when you go into school, and then other than that, it's to keep up your average. I would say that's probably the most important decision that you'll make, and probably the one that's the most tempting not to do, and that is making sure that you stay on track, because there are a lot of things that will get you off of that. It's easy to become enamored with the social aspect of school and not pay enough attention to where you are in your class as far as rank goes, because that's huge when you're trying to get into a professional school, because they look definitely at your IQ, they look at your outside activities, those types of things, and they also look at the quality of the interview that you do with them. So those types of things I think are really huge, and you want to make sure that you stay true to your goals, stay true to your dream. Does that help? Is that what you're after?
Hi. For those of you who may not know, I'm Tyshana Brown, and I'm currently a junior. And I talked to Mr. Venturella a lot about going to school out of state. So I just wanted to know, what are some ways that we could transfer our resources here to, maybe places out of state? For me, mine is Florida. So, to start somewhat of a support system out there, are there any ways that we can make different connections with people?
Well, we told you you're not allowed to.
So we don't have an answer. Yeah, don't go out of state.
Just kidding.
Joking, Doc. Go ahead.
I mean, to the first point to Sean's point is, I think, number one, you have to, as you're going through the pursuit for certain schools, you have to see what's the percentage of students that do come in from out of state to those schools. I think that is important, because you're going to look at some schools, specifically state schools, where 70 to 80% of the students are from that state. It's kind of tough to crack that click. Even though you don't think it exists, it does. And when you take a look at some schools that, you know, it's maybe 50-50, then I think you have a better chance of expanding that network. And then I think as you get closer through that, I would also, you know, then I think today's world with technology, you can reach out and connect with people even before you start going to school. And because I know my children were able to, you know, between Facebook and those type of items, make friends with people that were not yet set foot on campus. So when they showed up, they actually looked for those people when they got on campus, because it is important. I mean, it's first couple of weeks are tough.
If I could make a comment also, I would try and get in touch with your counselor, whoever your major, and get involved with people within that major. They're typically clubs and organizations that you can get involved with. But if you go to any teacher, whether it's here at school here or there, they want to help you. I mean, they really want to do that. That's their job, that's their passion. So they want to help you. And if you go there asking for help, they're going to want to do that. So they'll point you in the right direction as to who those people might be. I think it is important for everybody, though, when you're going away, to make sure that you hang with good people. You know, so right away, you know, look for the good people. You can tell who they are. You know how to find them. But hang with good people, and you'll get good results. Hang with bad people, you get bad results. But those people do want to help you, so I would get with those clubs, organizations, and your major.
I wanted to mention a few things also, because getting involved in the organizations is so important. For me, when I went to Purdue, very few of my friends went on to engineering at Purdue, so I was kind of alone when I first got there. There are a couple things that I did. One was that I got involved in the local church right away, and that gave me sort of a network of support spiritually as I was starting my college. But also got very involved in Society of Women Engineers, Society of Manufacturing Engineers, and the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. And all of those organizations had incredible seminars and opportunities for me to learn beyond my curriculum that I was following. So that helped me get, and it also gave me a network of immediate friends of common interests.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention is that when you graduate, before you graduate, somebody from the operating committee will be assigned kind of as a liaison for you to be in contact with you. So it's easy when you're in Florida and 1,000 or 2,000 miles away to kind of forget about that, but don't forget about that. I mean, keep in contact, make a point of that, because that is kind of a tie to the past, and it's sort of a familiar tie. So, you know, even though you're far away, the people are still very interested in what you're doing.
This is just kind of a general address to everyone. When you say that you want to go out of state or you're trying to decide what school to go to, make sure that you are choosing a school for the right reasons. For example, I wanted to work in sports. That was like my passion, professional sports. I considered, for example, Mount Union. Alliance was not close to any major market for sports, so instead I chose a school in Cleveland. So I would just challenge you to think about that depending on what your major is. If you say aviation, I would say, yeah, Florida's not a bad idea. So think about that in relation to that question too.
What are you thinking of doing, Tisham? Marketing. So I'm glad Mr. DePietro brought it up, but we're not going to let you go and not stay in contact. Okay, so that's number one. So your liaison, that'll be great. It's once a month, whenever you need it. That liaison, okay, needs to be there. Secondly, it's one of the reasons I'm so proud we've got graduates coming back. I mean, they're coming back for a reason if they're staying around here. Okay. Number two, I told you, every one of them has an apprenticeship and a job. So that's another thing you should consider, all right? Reasons to stay in touch. The other thing I'll say is Matt Kinlow and Justine Chesterton reached out to me about a year ago, and they were involved in the multicultural committees at their school, and they were wondering what they could do to weave that into what we were doing in camp. So I know Justine and Mrs. V at the J.R. Coleman Adult Center and the Child Learning Center, they got together, they had some discussions. So I think there's multiple things, you know, let your mind go a little bit, come up with all the ideas, come back to us, come back to me, Mrs. Bruner, anybody on the committee, and especially your liaisons, and we'll try to work with you along those lines, right? And then we expect to see you on the breaks too, spring breaks and everything, right? You'll already be in Florida, so you won't need to go to spring break in Florida. You'll want to come to Canton for a spring break. Go ahead, Doc, you can laugh at that.
Want to make sure, Tashana, make sure too you talk to people that have had both good experiences and bad experiences at out-of-state schools. Because I'm a person who had a bad experience at out-of-state, came back to an in-state school, and was much happier. So just because it's in a different state or a different climate even, they're still the same principles that make either a good experience or a bad experience. So make sure you talk to both, okay?
You got time to work on her before she graduates.
And I think one of the connecting words between what almost everyone has said up here is initiative. You know, you have to go out and take the initiative to do these things. College, I would say almost every single college is a lot different than high school. You're not going to have a Mr. Bruner that hunts you down because you're not attending class or your grades are falling. It's going to be on you to go see a counselor or find the tutoring services or talk to your teacher and say, you know what, I'm just not getting this. What do you suggest for me to do better? So it's going to be on you to hunt out those different services, the different activities for you to be a part of. Find your counselor. Your counselor doesn't call you or send you an email and say, hey, it's time to meet. That's on you to get additional help.
This is kind of like a feature in kind of Mr. Serviato. I know you have your own industry feature in Walton, or whatever it was called. Kind of wondering like what challenges you face like starting your own business, and then also if you kind of add yourself Serviato like the financial challenges that may come up because of that.
I think I said in my bio, probably one of the weakest things that we had as far as coming out of dental school is a business background. We got practically nothing in that. So it's probably one of the hardest things that you have to do as a professional, and that is learn how to run a business. So probably the biggest thing that we did, and this was back when I was in with my dad, and I give him a lot of credit because he took on the responsibility of making sure that we got out and got the latest ideas from a practice management firm that actually came in and taught us the latest concepts and how to, and really how to run a practice. And we needed that. And I think most businesses do. I think anybody up there in business has some type of a consultant that they use as far as their management practices and how they do them. So that's what we did, and we still do that today. We still have consultants that come in and evaluate how we run our practice and what we do. Extremely important, because you could be the best dentist in the world or the best doctor in the world, but if you can't keep the doors open, if you can't make money at it, it still has to be profitable. And so that has to be looked at, and again, you have to be efficient in it.
Can you repeat your question, please, for me?
What was the financial part, maybe like the challenges that may come when starting your own business or practice in that case?
I think one of the things is ask for help. And I think this goes for anything. Anytime you start out with something, there are going to be things that you don't know. You have no idea that you don't know. And that's the biggest thing. Find your consultants, work with a peer group. Even with this organization here, Mr. Venturella went out to other individuals to help him formulate and run the program. It's not just on Mr. Venturella to do it. So with any sort of organization that you're starting, whether it's a new business or a community service group, anything like that, you can rely on people with experience and be willing to ask for help. If you look at some startup companies in the past decade, a lot of times what you'll see is they fail in a few years because they come to market with a great product or a great idea, and they're overconfident and they don't go out and asking for help. This will date me a little bit, but the biggest thing coming out when I was in high school and college was MySpace. Facebook was unknown at the time. And how many people have a MySpace page now? Nobody. And, one person, sorry. And one of the reasons that they faltered was they said, look, we have everybody on MySpace. What could go wrong? We can do nothing and we'll still have all these members and all these pages. And now, fast forward 5-6 years, MySpace is basically unheard of. So don't get too comfortable and look for others to help you and give you ideas, even if they are somewhat competitors. You know, in my industry, for our company, we have a board that gets together twice a year. And it's not exact competitors, but it's individuals that are successful in the field, or similar field, and they offer their ideas of their successes or what they've tried and things that they've done that have failed. So, not quite enemies, keep your enemies close, but you know, think of the people that you're working against or you respect as well.
If I could, I'll be real quick on that. It really goes back to what Mr. Drennan had to say earlier, and what Mark and Doc had to say too. I mean, you gotta get great people around you. I mean, I looked when I walked into the company that I happen to lead right now, and I've hired 2 people in finance, a general counsel, a vice president of human resources, a vice president of quality, a vice president of safety, and a director of collections, and none of those positions were there when I walked in. It wasn't like I replaced those people. It was I had to go out and get that. So you'd say, well, why the heck did they hire you, Mr. Sypek, if all you did was go out and hire a bunch of other people and spend money? And that's why. That's the only thing I think I bring to the table is the ability to be able to look and say, I gotta get good people to run these type of positions to move forward. Then you layer what Mark said, and I don't want anybody to miss that, is layer on top of that, I have 5 consultants working for my organization right now. And these are experts in their field that can bring best practices from other businesses to help me get to where I need to be, where I think our company can go. So, starting your own business, or really any entity, I don't even think you want to be your own business. It's a team that you want to get. I could break it down to Cotton running the back room at Glenmore. He's only going to be successful by the 5, 6, 7, 8 people that he has working for him and with him. So he's going to get the best people and recognize their talents, strengths, put them in the right places to succeed, and then you'll be okay.
I was going to add, I think one of the reasons a lot of startup businesses fail is because they don't have a viable business plan to begin with. And a big piece of a viable business plan is proper capitalization up front. Because you can have the best idea in the world, go for 6 months, but if you run out of money and you have no choice but to go to work for somebody else, and in 6 more months you would have been highly successful, and the only reason you can't do that is because you didn't have enough capital up front. That's a real shame, and that happens to a lot of people. Particularly happens to a lot of people who start restaurants. Restaurants are notoriously undercapitalized when they start up, and they don't last for that reason. So, and if you go to, say, a bank to get a loan or something, you're going to have a really good business plan, or they're just they'll be polite, but you're not going to get anywhere with them. So a lot of times the consultants, friends, families, people that have been doing this will help you with that business plan, so that you have something really good that's viable, and that'll kind of help you get rolling and going along the way.
If I could make a final comment on that, it might not be the final comment, but anyhow, I've been involved in several startups, and almost without exception, you have an expectation. Okay, this is what we're going to do, a business plan. We think we're going to be able to accomplish these things. And with very rare exception, I've never met expectation. It's always been tougher than I thought. I mean, to the point that I thought I had a tremendous business plan in place. I was surrounded by good people. I was well capitalized. I had all of those things. And even then, it was much tougher than I expected it to be. And you just had to keep your nose to the grindstone and grind it out. Just make it happen. But it was tough. And I've never had an easy one. It's always been tough, for me at least.
So, at 17, at 14, I went to work in the dry cleaners. I think the minimum wage was $1.15 or something like that. But anyway, if you want to date yourself, Mark. So the two cousins that owned the dry cleaners, at 17, the store right next to our dry cleaner became vacant. They had friends in the tuxedo business, rental, formal wear rentals and sales. And they were getting in all new clothing, and they were willing to sell these two guys their tuxedos and start a tuxedo business. They asked me to join them at 17. So I remember my father took out his third mortgage on the house, and it wasn't a lot of money. It was a lot of money then, $5,000. It was not a lot of money in today's day and age. But that was my share of going in. So it was, I would say, affordable at the time. It wasn't an exorbitant amount of money. It wasn't millions of dollars. The issue is about 6 to 9 months down the road, those cousins started to fight. I was drawn into it, and our partnership was a disaster. So the two cousins switched shares. One now owned all of the dry cleaners, and the other guy owned 2/3 of the tuxedo place. And I got stuck with the bad one. And within 6 months, I had to get out. So the other caution I would have is, whoever you go in with, you better make damn sure. The second business was, my wife and I were 23, 24, and we had a chance to go into a card store. It was like a Hallmark card store. And I was right around the corner from where I was born and raised in Queens. And I went in with somebody who I thought was my best friend. And sure enough, about a year later, I was selling out. It was, fortunately for me, I joined General Foods and I was being moved to Chicago, my first move, so the timing worked out okay. But that was a very sour thing. Matter of fact, his brother bought me out, and I understand a year or two later, they, to this day, have not talked to each other, and that's probably 40 years ago. So, you have to be careful who you're going in with. Mr. DiPietro started up a organization recently. He's got a couple of partners, and I'm sure he knew that he had to vet them, and he had to make sure that they could get along. So I would be very careful. Even relatives, you need to watch out. You can, when you get in, especially when you're not meeting expectations, like Mr. Drennan said, the frustration starts to build, and every little thing becomes a big thing, and you wouldn't believe it. You'd say, "Oh, that's my brother," or "That's my father." I'd never get a lot, and trust me, it becomes an issue. So.
The old adage, a buddy of mine that was an entrepreneur in many businesses, the final thing he always said was, "I'd rather be in a bad deal with good people than a good deal with bad people."
Hi, my name is Courtney Dozier. I'm a sophomore. My question is for Mr. Bruner. What made you go from being an architect to trying to be a math teacher, and how did you know that was the right career path for you?
That's a good one. I think I put in there that I didn't have the skills as far as drawing and things like that, and actually when I was in the military overseas, I had this knack for being able to get a message or get something across as far as explaining and things like that to a group of folks. So it seems like that was a natural piece. Along with that, since 3rd or 4th grade, I was pretty handy with math. So as I transitioned from the military going into school, that became more of a thing for me, especially as I did like this field experience at one of the, I think it was Faircrest Middle School then, And then that's when it hit me that I wanted to work at middle or above in teaching students a skill set and everything. That's where it came from.
I'm Deborah Tassu, and my question is also directed to Mr. Bruder, and it kind of corresponds to what Courtney asked. How did you go from working odd jobs to becoming a school educator? Like, what career path did you take for you to change from working like basic jobs to going into the field of education?
Well, yeah. Those odds and end jobs that I listed on there were just jobs to get income. So I think a lot of you are aware the background that I had was that it was in a foster system, didn't really have much guidance as to far as what career to go into. And so those jobs were just then, when I was with my friends, to make money without there being an end game. And then I think I got the guidance when I went through the military and understanding that I had to have a focus, I had to have something on the end of it that would generate income, something that I would enjoy and be able to retire from and whatever. So that's when that transition happened. And those jobs are just things to go and make money, like fast food things and stuff like that.
Hello, my name is Jamie Oliver, I'm a junior. My question is also for Mr. Bruner, because I'm kind of going through that right now. I'm kind of like torn between two different career paths, and I want to know if you had any advice on like which way I should go. Because like I have the skills for both of them, and then I have a love for both of them, but they're different, and I don't know which one I want to go. I just can't choose right now. So do you have any advice?
Like, what's your choice in between?
I'm debating on if I want to be an English teacher or if I want to be an industrial psychologist. Yeah, they're totally different, I know.
I get a little held down on the end, but the first thing as far as education goes, as you know, that person's got to have this endurance and passion for the job, and understand that the group that you're working with is not a product or anything like that, it's a group of students. So you got to have a passion for it, and you got to be able to have this sort of flexibility and endurance to work with every type of person coming in, no matter how, if they come in prepared, if they come in resistant to anybody teaching them anything or anything like that. So you got to be able to deal with those challenges. Every single year is going to be pretty much a different year because the group that you're going to be going to come to you is going to be different. I would do what we're trying to do here as far as the networking piece. You can always talk to if you're going into English, talk to some of the English teachers here and ask them specific questions like, what are the benefits of this? And it can be anything from pay all the way through. What has been very challenging as far as lasting for 35 or whatever years, and investigate the industry to see if it's something that would be to your liking on both sides, that job and the other one you're looking at.
I can weigh in on this one too for you. I was a psychology major and now I work in education. I actually work here. My name's Beth Sterrett, for those of you that don't know me. I work in our vocational education area, so career tech education, all the programs that you see on this campus and on Main, I kind of help to support and oversee those programs. So I've done a little bit of both. The biggest difference for you is going to be, do you want to help train and mold adults, or do you want to help train and mold adolescents? That's probably the biggest difference between the two. Education-wise, you're going to be a master's degree on either of those. So just what population do you want to work with? And I would also encourage you to not make that choice now. Please go to college. Please take your education course, take your English course, and take a psychology course. You're going to need general education. I didn't plan to be a psychology major. I planned to be a sports management major, but found a love for psychology. It was just really interesting. It's how people work. You can always use a psych class. I'll tell anybody in here, take a psych class. You will work with people your whole life, and it's good to understand why people think the way they think.
That's great input, I think. Also, our April session is all on education, correct? We've been together 3 years. We have not done a session on education. So Mr. and Mrs. Bruner are getting together unbelievable people to come and present to you on education if that's a field that interests you, so please don't miss that, all right? And the other thing is, I can, similar to Ms. Starrett, I can look back and Mrs. Bruner and I can help you of those students who graduated that are psychology majors, and you should reach out and talk to them. I mean, that's our people, right? That's our peeps, they're from camp. So let's do that. One of them might even be right behind you. Okay. Good.
Okay, my name is Taylor, I'm a senior, and it kind of ties into like what Janisha was saying, like how would, like, I understand like for me, like careers, like there's different like paths that you can take to get to that one like career goal that you have. But like for me specifically, like the career that I want, I can, like there's different options to choose, but like how would you go about choosing the right option for you, like what career path specifically is right for you?
I'll speak on that one. I feel like careers is kind of my forte since that's what I do here, helping kids decide. The biggest thing, I would say first, reach out to your guidance counselor, take some career inventories if you don't know exactly what you're, because it's not just about what you love. Like, I knew that let's say you have a passion for something, where does your skill set fall to? It's about, it's usually about your abilities, your skills, and your interests. So it's a hybrid of all three. It's not just about what you love or what you're good at. It's got to be all three. So I would encourage you, if you guys have not gone onto the website, Ohio Means Jobs, I would highly recommend that you go there. Even if you think you know what you want to major in, again, Ohio Means Jobs. Even if you think you know what you want to major in, go there, investigate the careers. It'll give you a profile of what schools in Ohio can you go to, what schools out of Ohio can you go to, how much will you make, are there going to be jobs 5 years from now? And you're also able to take inventories in order to find out more about how your skill set is going to fit into that career. The other thing, at every college that you go to, there will be a career office. Get in that career office sooner than later. Everybody waits until their senior year and then they go in, can you help me with my resume? You're thinking, it's too late to build your resume. And I know we talk a lot about that in camp. You know, your resume starts now. And if it hasn't started yet, start it now. And if it hasn't started in high school, start at the beginning of college. Don't do it your senior year of college.
And keep in mind, there are some folks that came into education from industry. Mr. Studer, he's one that you can talk to because he came from industry and came into education. We have several teachers that went ahead and did that, and we have some folks that left education and went on. You got to realize that as we come into your age now, that you guys have a lot more options and that you're going to make yourself viable. So explore all options and don't feel like you'll be landlocked in one because you've chosen that's what you went toward. You have the option, availability, whatever, to go into another field that you may be interested in too.
And keep in mind the, let me see, what's the word? The cross training or fertilization of positions. For instance, I had a friend who loved the medical field, but he knew he didn't want to spend the time and energy becoming a doctor. He was good in business, and he went to manage a hospital as a businessman. So think about that. He loved medical, he was good in business, and he ran a hospital. So you can have different desires and professions and things you want to do. Education's a fine example. I mean, you could go up all the way up to running a college. I mean, you know, as a businessman with education background. So there's a lot of things that cross over. I mean, and any good CEO and manager of companies and businesses will tell you that, for instance, in my profession, marketing people and finance people became the CEOs. That's the way it was. They didn't come out of sales, they didn't come out of logistics, you could go into marketing and you could go into finance and eventually run consumer packaged goods companies. And that's kind of the way it is. So Mrs. Bruna, I do think that Mrs. Myers could help us here as Human Resources.
Definitely.
And maybe what we can do is set up a session, I'm thinking about this now, over in the camp office, and we'll pick a day or two between now and the end of the school year. And we'll have students come in who want to talk about career paths. Mrs. Myers is invaluable from a human resource standpoint. She knows a lot about that. So why don't we put that on a docket? I think that'll be good.
Okay.
You know, if I could just say one thing on this. I mean, I think that's the beauty of camp, is the ability to learn and watch and listen to so many different walks of life and say, does anything at this point in my time really give me the love and passion that I want to do? And God bless every one of you that has that, because when I was sitting in your chair, and I'm going to be openly transparent, I didn't know what I wanted to do, okay? But, so I think, but I didn't have this. And then the second thing I would say to everyone, this may come harsh and I don't mean it, take advantage of people that walk across your path to learn more about what they have to offer to you. Because there isn't a person in this table, or anybody that I don't know, that I hang out with, that wouldn't meet you for a coffee somewhere to talk about what they do, why they do it, and the path that they took to get there. And I think that's invaluable, when you have that opportunity. I think some of us always fumble, me included, to say, what do I talk to this person for 10, 15 minutes about, whether it's at a social event, whether it's at a picnic, whether it's you, any one of you. And you have that same opportunity to say, well, let's at least talk about what you do, and what you want to do, and why you wanted to do it. And then you say, wow, that's interesting. See, I've had a good fortune of working in the transportation industry, so I got to haul everything that is ever made in the United States of America. And that's not unrealistic for me to say, from food to what you wear to, I used to love go visit these facilities. I know Tom was in that same type of environment when he was in sales and marketing. You get to meet these people and say, whatever got you into making this? And they just had a passion. And they learned from somebody, and they saw a need for somebody, and they put a business plan together and said, that's what I wanted to do. So when we talk about network, understand what the word network, to me that's not only getting your name in front of somebody, but getting yourself educated. Thanks.
I just wanted to add one thing. It's, you do have a great benefit here in terms of being able to talk to these folks. I wanted to give you a personal experience. I wanted to be an engineer in the worst way in high school. I went to college, I became an engineer, I worked 2 years as an engineer and absolutely hated it. I didn't have a passion for it, and I didn't know enough about it to know whether or not I'd have a passion or not. So then I went back to business school and I had a passion for that. So the more that you can talk to people and kind of figure out where that skill set is, where the passion is, it'll benefit you greatly. But it's not to say if you do go on one path and you figure out that it's not the right one, you can always switch. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't. You think about English, teaching English versus psychology. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people in psychology that went into teaching and vice versa. Regardless, you know, their undergraduate degree could be in one or the other, and they went that direction. Because I know in my industry as an engineer, you saw engineers go into medicine, dentistry, business. You saw them go all different kind of directions, and it just provided a nice base. So to the extent, yeah, it's great that you can learn as much about what you want to do now, but also don't forget that you can make changes along the way if you really don't have that passion once you get into it.
Right. 2 points on that. One is, you have already compressed your education to the point where you could leave here and you can go and get a degree in 2 years. To go get a degree in 2 years in something you don't even know is your passion, number one. Number two, it requires you at that point to take more school when you're not sure about it. In my mind, to me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It may to you, but we have a lot of graduates sitting at home without jobs because they haven't thought through exactly what I'm talking about. It's why we impress so much on our graduates to have what we call a safety net. Look at having a minor or a double major. So what if you, I understand there's a cost, but you can talk to Mr. Savodia about the cost and handling that and managing it. That, in my mind, is good debt. If you double major or minor in something, and you go on for an extra semester or two because you're going to get a minor in IT or business administration or international business or something else that floats your boat, that can save you and be a safety net for you just in case it doesn't work out at the number one choice. Does that make any sense? Dr. Pete?
I think what I want to say is about the same thing you're saying. The last figures I read were that 74% of college graduates do not work in their major. So I think sometimes you get so consumed with knowing what you want to do, it really may not matter. Most businesses look at a college degree as a door opener. If you've got the fortitude and the focus to be able to get through college and get your degree, that's what a lot of businesses are looking for. They'll put you where they need you, and then from there you can start to make your performance reviews and get into the areas that you really see where your skill sets lie and that you really like. So I guess I would go on the bandwagon saying, don't get too caught up in worrying about knowing exactly what you want to do. You're too young. You don't have to know. There are very few people that know at this age going, I've always wanted to be a nurse, or I've always wanted to be a doctor, or whatever it is, and then they go on to do that. They're the exception, not the rule.
I'm going to add one more comment. When we were talking about minors, maybe I knew I didn't want to be an engineer because I had a business minor. I was a chemical engineer, but I had a business minor and a biomedical engineering minor. And the thought was, if I wanted to go to business school or medical school, at least I had some coursework that would give me a leg up when I applied to graduate school. So those minors can really help you a lot because you're going to already have some coursework and you'll get a feel for those things. So if you do get into a profession right out of school and you don't like it, you know, you've got a leg up on most people that are applying for the graduate school.
Just one more comment on that. Regardless of what you major in, ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to be sitting across from somebody interviewing you for a job. And you're going to have to be able to communicate with that person. It was said earlier in the meeting with the new group coming in, if you haven't done it yet, even if you have to do it when you first go to college, get into speech or debate or do something where you're getting used to talking in front of people. That would be number one. And then number two, just become the best person you can be. Now that sounds a little simplistic, but be a good person. And when you're interviewing, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, and I'm not exaggerating, like Harvard MBAs and all kinds of special degrees, and those weren't the people that impressed me. The people that impressed me were the people that could speak, they'd have eye contact, they'd communicate, it looked like they were engaged, and they just seemed like genuinely nice people. They had done volunteer work in the past, and you could tell they had a good heart. And to me, that was more important than some of the degrees they had.
I want to add one more tidbit, just because I feel like recently I went through college. Who likes free stuff? Who likes free stuff? Who likes free college? All of you, because you're here in this program. I just want to make you guys aware that when you're in college, at least when I was there, I hope nothing's changed, it's the same cost to you for 12 credit hours as it is for 18 credit hours. So if you can find a way, I mean, they always say, oh, the minimum's 12. And sometimes if you're in athletics, they'll say, oh, only take 12. I really challenge you that if you think you can handle it academically, go more towards that 18. You can get a double major in, even at a liberal arts school where you have to take lots of extra electives, in 4 years. You can do it, it's the same cost, it will not cost you extra, but you get so much more out of it. Plan your courses, plan ahead, get them all done.
I'm Marina Michael, and I'm a sophomore. My question is, like, I've kind of had a passion for education since I was young, and I realize that it takes like a lot of patience to deal with like different types of kids every day, and even in business to deal with different types of customers. And I was kind of wondering, like, how you deal with different types of people and how you handle them and help them in different ways.
Someone recently, I hope I get to answer your question. Somebody recently asked me what do I think are the greatest, what's the greatest skill that you can have, especially in our field of education. There was a bunch of principals over there in our meeting and stuff. And they linked, of course, to our communication, very important stuff. For me, probably just for me, is that I think for me to survive and get through from my beginnings before I went into becoming a teacher up to this point, and it may not seem like it, but listening. Sometimes I have to give a couple of examples. If someone were coming in maybe a little upset, like a parent or something like that, giving them a chance to go ahead and voice their concern, get it off their chest. Even with students, when they come to the office, sometimes giving them a chance to just get it off their chest, to go ahead and talk it out. Because sometimes, not only does it help me to just listen, it might help them to hear what's actually coming out of their mouth and listen, then try to work through processing it. Then at the end, try to make it so that we end on a good note or something like that for the most part. Of course, it's not perfect, things like that, but that's something that I try to work on to do, the listening skill, and then just being consistent from that point. Other than that, it's just, like I said before, the passion of working with students and everything, and understanding that this is where I want to go, no matter what comes at you, but that listening, and then right after that is the communication piece, so that you're giving the folks out there a chance to go ahead and just share things, and they don't feel like they're, not heard or anything like that, and then you help them process.
We've talked a little bit about taking a psychology course, and this is where it helps, because if you understand, you can listen and understand where someone else is coming from, then you can work towards a resolution. And that happens all the time in business. You're going to find people in business that you don't like, and they're just not nice people, but you still have to work with them, at the end of the day. So your goal is to try to figure out where they're coming from. And a little psychology helps, and then kind of see if there's some kind of and it's kind of cliche, I know, but it's used a lot in business, but to find a win-win situation where both of you can at least, give some ground, find a common situation, and then kind of move on. And most of the time you can do that, but not always. But that's where some of the psychology helps. And I know I took several psychology courses, and I really thought it was helpful in business, if that's kind of what you're interested in.
And just as everyone has different communication styles, and that's something you'll learn through understanding the psychology of communication, everyone has a different learning style as well. So that's something that you need to really focus on, because you may have a student that is just frustrating you to no end. And what you may find is that the teaching method that's being used is not compatible with their learning style. So that's something to every now and then just to step back and say, okay, what is the learning style of each of the students, and incorporate these different styles within each lesson, and then you'll touch everyone.
I wanted to touch, I think it was Mr. Sypek that said, take advantage of all of these people and make sure you talk to them. You can't imagine how many times I come into the lunchroom and I may have one or two students come up to me, and believe me, I know those students, I remember them. Generally, they're asking me something about like careers or things that we can help them with. I will tell you that out of the 19 apprenticeships that we had, that 90% of those students were the type of students that would come up to me, ask me how I can help them. Because guess what? When we help them, I could go through almost every person on this panel right now and tell you stories that nobody knows about except me and maybe the individual that they helped. And it's going on right now. Every single one of them. So if you don't reach out, and if some of you see me in a lunchroom, I sit right here. I'm right by Mrs. Brunner, and then we get up and we go over to the camp office and we conduct our business. But, frustrating part for me is after 3 graduating classes, probably half of each of those graduating classes would walk by me 10, 12 times in a year, and maybe say hi, and we'd shake hands, but that's about it. And so, and I told the new group that, the new portion of the group, that when you're in the program, it doesn't guarantee you, I showed you what we have to offer. It doesn't guarantee you any of those things. It guarantees you a shot at those things based on how bad you want it. And that, to me, is if you're going to walk past a bunch of people, professionals, and in a year or a year and a half that I observe you, you have nothing to come to me and ask me about your profession or your school or those kinds of things that are on your mind, then you're going to get out of camp what you put in it. And we won't throw you out for that. And that was the frustrating part. I still have about half of the students who don't engage and maximize the opportunity that's here. So think about that. Think about it. And the ones that have maximized that opportunity, I can tell you, their lives are going to be marketably different. They will be. I need to go to bed, and then I'm going to come to you.
Hello, my name is Vivian Garrity, and I'm a senior. Mr. Drennan touched on my question a little bit ago, but anybody that's ever interviewed and hired on the panel, if you could tell me what's the most important thing you look for whenever you're interviewing and hiring people.
I'll start with that real quick, is that all the tools that you have nowadays, you better know about me, you better know about the company that I work for. I mean, you have to do your research on what you're interviewing for, the individual you're interviewing with, and where the company needs to go. And I think then the most important thing is just to come across that you want the job, desire the job, and have passion for the job. And if you show genuine interest, genuine is a key word there. I mean, if you're there taking an interview just to say, and you can tell them a mile apart, and it blows my mind, some of the people, how they come into this thing. They think the job is theirs and I should be offering it to them before we even get through it. They have a very high opinion of themselves, but it's the people that come in, and what I look for is how, this may go, I'm going to say this next to Mr. Bruner, but I don't look at a GPA. That I can tell you right now. I don't look at a GPA. Did you graduate? Did you do well? Were you involved in activities? Do you give back to the community at any level that you can? And do you care about the job and other people? And that's the honest truth. Now, I do look for a GPA when I'm hiring my CFO, or I'm hiring my general counsel. I want to make sure he's not at the bottom of the law school class. I want to make sure he's at the top of the law school class. But new people coming in, because you know a 4.0 will not get you the job. If a 3.5 or 3.3 shows me other well-rounded activities, that most likely will get that opportunity.
And what you said is right on. So just to help out with this, I've interviewed probably in just a 4-year span, because we started the new school and then kind of a turnover early college. I probably interviewed close to 100 plus in just a 4-year span. And because our program is unique, it impresses me when someone comes in here and they've researched it. So that's huge. And when they come in and I have to spend the interview session partially educating them about it, I'm either thinking about the person that I interviewed before that stuck out in my mind, or I'm looking for the next one to come in, or how much time I gotta go through this. So just keeping that in mind. Come in, understanding, having a knowledge of the history of the program and things like that, or the company or whatever that you're going in for. That impresses a lot of folks.
Eye contact.
I might add too, the one thing, and I've interviewed a lot of people, hired a lot of people, and the one thing that always, and this is an expression I use, if their ego walked in the door in front of them, it was the biggest turnoff in the world. Now, you need to know what you're talking about. You need to be self-confident. There's a big difference between being self-confident and having your ego at the center of everything. So you kind of think about that. The reason you're there is to sell yourself to this job. And so the way you sell yourself is to figure out a little bit ahead of time as to how you can actually contribute to the success that organization. And you have to know about the organization, you have to know about yourself, then you put those two together. You don't just talk about yourself. You kind of put those two together in your organization. As John said, you have to know something about the organization before you go in to be able to do that. And bring the ego in, but don't have it lead, you know, as you walk in the door.
You know, if I could mention also that, you know, research the company, think about what it is that you can bring to them. That's what they really want to know. How are you going to help me with my company? But I would, for me, one of the very most important things is that if you genuinely, what Mr. Sipek said, if you genuinely are interested, after having researched it, talked to the person, specifically and intentionally ask for the job. Ask for the job. Ask for the job. So Mr. Sipek, I've researched your company. I really appreciate a chance to talk. Everything that you've said to me, I really believe I can bring value to your company in these different ways. And Mr. Sipek, I would like to come to work for your company and specifically work for you. If you specifically ask for it, I think your batting average goes up, way up.
The two things I would add are to send a thank you note. I can't believe adults that don't send thank you notes. Please send a thank you note. If not a note, at least an email, something to recognize that person's time. Also have questions that you're going to ask. If you come and you want to work for me and I have somehow answered all of your questions while asking you questions, you're not interested enough. So have questions and make sure the first one is not, how much money am I going to make? Absolutely not your first question. A good one that I always write down if I'm like struggling to come up with a question, what kind of people, the people that I work with are very important to me. What kind of people do you look to hire at your company? That's always a good one. It shows personal interest, and also if you haven't gotten to talk enough about yourself, you can then elaborate and go, I'm so glad to hear that you like trustworthy people. That's so important to me too. You know, elaborate on what they say.
I just took this folder back from Jack, and as a matter of fact, in a couple of minutes, Jack and Vivian are going to talk about the website team. But if you go on a website, you will find unbelievable articles about interviewing, skills. Here's one, it's interview time, are you prepared? This was given to us by Glenmore. It's a brochure that they put out. It's absolutely wonderful. It incorporates a lot of the things that were set up here. Here's an interview, why only 3 questions really matter. Have you got the skills and expertise and experience to perform the job? Are you enthusiastic and interested in the job and the company? And will you fit the team and the culture? So all of these tips and everything are on, on the web. I always said also, like Mr. Bruner and many of the people up here doing hundreds if not thousands of interviews, when you get a job posting, if you would, and I can, as we do prep, especially when you're in college and you're looking for career jobs, and might even do it before, but I can go through a job application and I can quickly pick out the 6 to 8 skills that they are looking for in that job application. And it's really as simple as these are the 6 to 8 skills they're asking me to demonstrate. And then you have a resume that demonstrates those skills, and it becomes a beautiful thing, if you know what I mean. It's almost a perfect match. You obviously have to talk, and that's where speech and debate and communication skills in general comes in. But you will quickly find out if you peruse a job posting of what they're looking for, and then the key is, I gotta give them what they're looking for, right? Now, you give them what they're looking for, you take all of your experience in early college, high school, all of your experience in camp, and everything you've done volunteer work-wise, all of that, and throw it together, you got one heck of a combination when you graduate.
I'm Justine Chester. I'm a senior at Willow University. I'm a psych major. And I should be going to grad school, if not next spring, then next fall. So my question is for Ms. Starrett. What psychological principles are most important to you when you are trying to place people in jobs? I'm going to school for IELTS Psych. So.
Okay. I did an internship in human resources, and that's probably the closest, in addition to working, you know, in careers for the kids. What psychological principles as far as placing people? I think you have to really look at what job you're trying to place them in. I mean, I want a different person in a finance position than I do in a marketing position. So I think really looking at the individual person is probably the simplest way to put it. Asking the right questions, doing inventories. You know, don't be afraid to put someone through testing. That's obviously going to give you the best data. Those are tried and tested. So lean on the tests that are already created and use that data to place your folks.
Sorry.
Hello, again, right here, I got it.
Wait a second.
I think this question could be for anyone on the panel. I kind of need some advice because right now, well, I currently got a new job, thank God. And I like this job a lot better than I liked my last one, but I like the way people treated me at my last job than I do the ones who treat me at my current. So I'm kind of stuck between whether I should just, you know, I didn't like my last job, but I like the relationship I had with the other employees and my employer. And with this one, it's like they treat me like I don't really matter, you know what I mean? So I'm like, should I just put up with it because I like this job, or should I just go back and just deal with, I don't like the job, but I like the people I work with?
Well, I'll take it first crack. Why do you have the job? To make money? Is that it? There's your answer. If you can make money and tolerate it, and that's what you want to do, then I would do it. There was plenty of summer jobs that I hated, but they paid well, and I could tolerate it, and it got me to where, I mean, at some point, you have to find what you love. But I don't look sometimes at our summer jobs and what you do. Now, if you ask me if you had an opportunity to have an apprenticeship or internship with camp versus that, I would definitely go over to camp because now you're on something, hopefully on a path in a professional type world. But if we're talking a summer make money type of deal, I actually hope you all have jobs like that you don't like, because it teaches you what you do like, and it teaches you what you don't want to be, what type of person, what type of folks you don't want to work for, what kind of culture you want to create in terms of when you get that opportunity in your future. So I mean, I look back at some of the things that are the best teaching moments in my life, some of the jobs that I had. I don't know if I answered your question, but I wouldn't sweat too much on it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Hello, my name is Malaya and I'm a sophomore. I want to do my education in Ohio, but I wonder if I will lose any opportunities if I started my career outside of the state. What's our do?
When you graduate, the world is your oyster, actually. It is actually sometimes even easier to get a job out of state than where you're at, depending on what your career is. I graduated in engineering, and my first job from Indiana was in Connecticut. And that was quite a change, because I'd never lived in Connecticut before. I didn't know anybody in Connecticut, but I knew it was a good job, and I would learn and grow, and it turned out with that company, then my second year was actually back in Indiana to spend some time with my family, and then I moved back to Connecticut. So don't be afraid when you graduate to look at opportunities out of state. I know it's a kind of leaping out there, and you don't know anyone, but pretty soon you're going to have new friends and you're going to see new opportunities. So don't be afraid to make that leap. And if you get there, you're working a while and you find you really don't like that job, you don't like the people you're working with, don't worry about that either. You can always look for other opportunities and make a change. I mean, I was really fortunate. I really loved the company I was with, and I spent many years with them until an even better opportunity came, and I switched jobs and moved to Philadelphia after that. But you know, don't be afraid to step out of state for that opportunity in the future.
I can say I'm a person who's never left Ohio. I went to school in Ohio, I did my undergrad and my master's here. The one thing that I will say about that is that there are a lot of great schools right here in Ohio. I know a lot of other places sound very appealing. I'm gonna get out of Ohio, get out of Canton. You're very, very fortunate that you have a lot of good schools in state. The other thing is look at the financial ramifications of moving out of state. Not just the out-of-state tuition costs, but just the cost of living. You know, you can't go home and do a load of laundry. You can't go home and have mom cook you dinner. I mean, there were nights when I was broke in college and that was my only option, was to just go home and be able to do those things at home. So just watch the finance piece. If you do plan to move out of state, make sure that you have those all in line.
I will tell you that a lot of the students that I've spoken with, especially our graduates, and there are some people who are dying to get out of here, and by the time they finish high school, they can't go far enough. And it's for various reasons. I mean, some of it is personal, and some of it they share with Mr. Bruner and Mrs. Bruner and I. And they're neither right nor wrong. But we went to see Youngstown State. We went to Mr. Tressel, Jim Tressel. He said, we are in your school's sweet spot because I am 40 minutes away. And if you're too close, my son went to St. Vincent St. Mary's. And the kids who are stuck in Akron and can't get out of the valley, they call it, and for various reasons, and they try to go to school right next door in Akron U, it didn't work out so good for them. Tressel's a firm believer that 45 minutes to an hour is a sweet spot. You're not close enough to hang and get in and catch up. Anyway, what I'm getting to is, we've been to wonderful colleges, Hiram, Cleveland State. Mount Union might as well be 500 miles away if you go there. I mean, it's self-contained in the middle of nowhere. But you got to be thinking about why I want to get out of here and go to Ms. Starrett's point. We have wonderful schools here. Our issue is, and Mr. Bruner and our issue is that the vast majority of early college high school students were leaving the state. And guess what? Probably never coming back. The other thing selfishly is here with camp, we have so many connections. If you look at some of the grads that I was talking to that are here today, the reason they're here today is they're going to school here. But guess what? Many of them are working here through the connections going to school. Many of them will secure jobs right here because their connections are unbelievable. They can walk into Mercy Hospital or the Cleveland Clinic or Akron General, or some of these fine hospitals, Mercy here, and get jobs. Or an engineer can go work in Smuckers, or Debo, or Timken, or Goodyear. So we selfishly, because of all of our connections, want to keep you in Northeast Ohio, all right? But we're going to help you. If you're going to school out of state and you have no plans on coming back, I'm going to work on your resume. We're going to make sure that whatever you want to do, you're going to be successful with, because that's what this program is all about. And I don't care where you live. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. We're going to take 2 more questions, and then I need to turn it over to a couple of people.
I'm Rachel Schuker, and I'm a sophomore, and this question is directed toward anyone on the panel who has led a management position. I would like to know how you deal with having to put a team together and then also being responsible for people's actions. So like if you're in a position where you're leading someone else and maybe their actions might reflect upon how you are seen, how you would deal with that situation.
I'll go ahead and start. My first really large management role was managing a group of test engineers in a research center in the Netherlands. And each person had a different role in the different projects that we would do regarding varying testing and so forth. And for me, in setting up the team for a particular program or project, what I found the most important thing was, number one, to have diversity in the group, because you always have a person that's a good idea person, and you need a person that is actually going to put the ideas down in the right way so that they can be communicated. You also need that person who can really get their hands on the project and do the work too. Because some people are better idea people than they are an action. And then you need that person who really can finish it. Because some engineers, because I worked with all engineers, would like to improve it forever and never really finish. So you really do need to define what's the objective of that project and when are you going to finish it. Now some projects lead themselves better to a schedule and a calendar than others. But the most important thing is to understand what each person on that team is going to contribute. And each of them have to have individual goals and commitment to reaching those goals and objectives by a certain time, so that ultimately you reach your final objective. And there's going to be times sometimes where people on the team are going to kind of work against each other because they didn't like the idea that was put forward that the rest of the people decided was the best way to go. And you have to deal with those individuals that are in conflict gently to the point of ultimately being able to support one another and go forward as the team has agreed to go forward. Because it is going to happen sometimes that you're going to have some conflict that you need to come to what was mentioned before by Bruce as a win-win instead of looking at it as a competition.
So, I talked to you a little bit about skills and competencies. One of the ones you're asking about is called strategic thinking. If you are in a job like a marketing position, you cannot become a marketer unless you have the ability to think strategically. And what does that do? That sits down like to Mr. Sipek, what he did. I would say he gave you a prime example. He walked into an organization, he had the ability to step back and analyze what the organization looked like. He then developed a plan and said, I need positions that didn't even exist. I need this, 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 this. And he's got a structural plan on how he goes about doing that, right? Or finding somebody who can help him do that. You cannot do certain career paths and jobs without certain skills. You can't be a good engineer if you don't have good math skills. I mean, that's just the way it is. So things like that, the abilities to put together high-powered teams that can drive you to new heights. As a salesperson, do you have to be the greatest strategic thinker? No, but I better have drive for results. And I better have the ambition like you can't, well, I mean, there's certain other skills I need to have. But I can get by with not being able to think strategically in sales and somebody saying to me, that's your number, go get it. Right? So I got a strategic thinker telling me, that's your number, go get it. And then in sales, that's what I'm going to do. I will go through that wall. I just got to figure out how to get through there. Might need some strategic thinking to figure that out, but does that make sense? And then the oyster thing is very, when we moved my 9th or 10th time, we bought a house in San Francisco, and this gentleman that I bought the house from was speaking in an accent. This was in 1995, and I said, 1995, mind you. I said to him, so what do you do? And he was in IT. And he was vice president of IT for a certain company and everything. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I says, where are you moving to? He says, Switzerland. So San Francisco, he's going to Switzerland. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Where is your company based? And he said, in France. And I said, well, how does this work? I mean, he says, because I could do my job from anywhere in the world. And they're allowing me to go to Switzerland to do it. So when you say your world is an oyster, that's a prime example, and this is 20 years ago. So think about that. Think about your world, other parts, international business, languages, things that would get you to make the world a whole bit, a lot smaller. And companies, corporations, major companies, I'm not talking about if they produce over there, but if they have a strategy to sell over there. Nestle's is about 50-50 international and United States. Unilever, 80% of their revenue is international, 20% in the United States. Kraft, 90% in the United States, 10% over there. But they're always looking for people. I used to go to conventions, I stand next to a guy, I said, what do you do? He goes, I run Italy. I go, what? He goes, I run Italy for sales and marketing. I go, how cool is that? And so, sky's the limit. Okay? I'm going to take one more. Anybody who didn't ask a question? Sarah, did you ask a question?
This is kind of for everyone, but we've kind of touched on it, but the whole enjoying your job, because I know it's really important, because I don't want to be stuck in a job after like a really long time and just absolutely hate going to work. But for Mr. Drennan, if your career wasn't as enjoyable as your bio said, would you have continued even if you knew the outcomes and successes you'd have?
Well, the question was, if I didn't really enjoy what I was doing, would I do something else? Is that correct, or did I miss it?
Well, yeah, even if you knew the successes you had from it.
Okay. For me, and it kind of gets back to leading a team, growing a team kind of a thing. Personally, I think that you have to find out your why. Okay, what's that mean? Why is it? What is it that really turns you on? What is it that makes you happy? What is it when you feel, man, I love this, I really love this? And you might not know what it is now. It might not have anything to do with your major. You know, it just has to do with who you are and what it is that really brings you joy to your life. So I try to bring that why to whatever it is that I'm doing, and back to like how do you grow a team kind of a thing, or a management group. My why is a bigger vision. You know, what is it that's really important to me? And then creating a vision that I can share with other people that are part of my management group that they also agree with. You know, so for me, it has to be of service to other people. Now, ultimately, you have to make a profit, but it really gets down to values and principles, like win-win and total honesty and no politics, and really trying to provide a service to other people, exceeding people's expectations, being a blessing to other people. So I can bring that to a lot of other things, but if I wasn't able to bring it to the position that I'm in, maybe I'm surrounded by a culture that they just don't buy it, you know, I would leave. I would go somewhere and find my why, where I can be happy, where I can feel like I'm bringing value added to some other people, because I know I can make a living somewhere, but I want to be happy doing it. If I'm not happy, I'm not happy. You know.
But also keep in mind, and this goes back to, do I stay doing what, you know, I don't want to do? Your life is going to change so many times. I mean, Mr. Drennan can say that, but I'm not sure, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if you dialed it back 20 years and he's got 3-4 kids at home, would he make the exact same statement about, I don't like this and I'm ready to walk out of this job? There's other circumstances you have to take into consideration. It's not that cut and dry, you know, your life's going to change many, many times, and that's also the thing. It's like, don't go absolutely nuts that you can't land on what you want to do today, Taylor. To Dr. Pete or whoever was saying, don't sweat it. But be mindful of it. Be a sponge. Suck all of this up. Take some advice, you know, as you go forward. Don't think you have all the answers. Take some advice and then work through it, okay? And we'll help you all work through it. So, what did you think about this session? You guys? Great. Now, I do want to spend 2 minutes. Our last session, which I was not at, and unfortunately I couldn't view it on the website yet. We had a little bit of a glitch. But that was financial health by Mr. Sabodio. we're not gonna spend a lot of time, but does anybody have any comments on that? Was there any wow moments? Look at your notes for a second. We'll take one or two wow moments on financial health for Mr. Savodio. He's gonna be doing a 201 and a 301 session with the graduates on as far as handling financial matters. Tyshawn.
What amazed me is that no matter how much money you make, you can be a millionaire. There's always some way you can get stuck in debt without correct budgeting and managing your finances.
That's a wow. That's a wow. Anybody else? Gators go.
It was just, I found that it was really important that all your money needs to have a destination. Like, you need to know where exactly you're putting all of your money. You don't want to have just money and not know where it's going to go.
Those are two quick ones. I'll take one more if anybody wants. No? No, I
I liked how he gave us like a spreadsheet, like kind of shows like even though we're still in high school, we may not have like a mortgage and like kids, everything, but it kind of showed like where your money's going. So I'm taking my checks that I get from my job. I'm like, wow, after my phone bill, car insurance, and all this, this is what I have left, and it's like you to spend on anything. How much I should save to set out, you know, like 6 months salary in the bank for like anything you need, just in case something happens.
Great. I heard it was a great session, and when it's posted, I don't know if with the incoming students, that's going to be one of the mandatory ones or not. If it isn't, I encourage you to look at it. And by the way, we have great seminars, I think. I'm prejudiced and I'm biased, but I will tell you, I don't know of any, other than the first one, we couldn't get the video or anything to work. That was the biggest disaster, but we repeated that, and that was the perils of social networking, which you must look at. We're gonna ask that you definitely look at that one. But they're all good, and I know you'd probably rather look at some, something TV or videos or do something else, but those sessions on there, especially if you want to learn about careers, I would definitely go on there because the experts are there. I mean, the Timken one, the Mr. Drennan did one, a great motivational one. Ms. Shear did one on engineering, and just a terrific one. Mr. DiPietro has done. There are wonderful sessions up there, so please get on there. Vivian and Jack have, I think, an announcement.
Hello, everybody. Well, that session was great. Thank you, operating committee. So what we're looking to do right now is there's 3 seniors on the web team right now. That means we're all leaving, and Jacob will be left by himself to run the entire website team. And we're not going to make him do that. So what we're looking for right now is 1 incoming sophomore to help us next year, 2 incoming juniors, and 1 incoming senior to help with the website team. Basically, for the website team, as long as you know how to log on to the internet, use a mouse, and type, you're capable to do it. So if you guys want any more information about it, you can ask me after the session. If you would be interested in joining the web team, just come to me and I'll get your email and I'll need your grade as well. And I think that was it. Are we going to get pictures of the new students today? Oh, and I'll do those next. So all the new students, I'll do your pictures next seminar. So whatever you want to look like on the website, wear it. And so that's it for me.
Okay, Caitlin and Mackenzie are going to come up and tell you about a program. It's called HPAC. They can explain to you what that's all about. And this is in the works for what, about 2 months? 2, 3, not maybe 3 months, 4 months? And so Dr. King will be back he's a snowbird. He'll be back any day, I think, I hope. Not when he sees the snow, he won't be back. But anyway, Dr. King is overseeing that program with myself and a group of students.
Hello, we are doing a group called HPAC, it stands for Health Professionals Affinity in the Community. It's myself, Caitlin, Natasha, and Chelsea. And we meet Wednesday mornings and Friday mornings just to get like a general idea of healthcare and how we can spread information about what to do in certain different situations. And we don't have, I know like there are different cities and lots of people who don't have access to healthcare. So we are starting a group, like I said. We are having a mini health fair at Timken parking lot. That is May 7th. And we are calling up organizations like Mercy Hospital, Altman Hospital, see if they can donate or want to have a booth to come to our health fair, just to spread the information and get the word out that we do have more access to healthcare just around in the community.
What if you just want to volunteer to help you guys, like you're not interested in that career field, but you want to help you guys start?
Yeah, that'd be great, Joe, yeah. Yeah, we can just write down in a piece of paper, we can just see if you guys want to sign up. And then as the seniors go, as Natasha and Chelsea go, we are going to want more people to join the HPAC group so we can get it bigger and we can grow it stronger. So if anybody is wanting to sign up, we can do that after the.
Great. I would see Caitlin or Mackenzie if you're interested, if this interests you. These HPAC groups go on all over the state. They're originally sponsored by Neomed, and they work on anything from drug-related problems to suicide to mental illness to whatever you want to work on as students in the community. There's grants available to spread the word, for flyers, for any educational material. They're working on that, this group that's put together. So give them your support. I am going to ask Mr. Bruner and Mrs. Bruner if there's a time that they can hold this within the school just so the early colleges could see it. So if there's any good time in the next couple of months before they do the Timken parking lot fair, is there anything they can do to spread the word throughout all of early college to see what the interest is and educate them? So, thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Anything? Go ahead. Yeah.
The only thing I have is, I, of course, want to brag about you during lunch and all. So those new students, I will need a picture so that when we start school after the break, I can go ahead and put that out so it can be shown during lunch. So, yeah, you guys are fortunate. But yeah, I want to get a picture of you guys just to display during lunch when we come back from our junior and below break.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I appreciate all your time and attention today. Please take this opportunity, any questions you might have for individual operating committee members. You've got about 10 minutes. Thank you.
So after you do a little networking, we want the new students to come up here and meet the folks, but we'll take the picture back there to the back on a stair walk.